unapologetic, unadulterated, and uncompromising. Absolutely relentless. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, the super fortress of intelligent black thought. The only one of its kind on planet Earth today. This is the BlackChannel.net radio. I am, of course, your host, your brother, your humble servant, Mr. Jason Black, the Black Authority, and we're glad to have you all with us here this evening. The telephone number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. That's your personal access code to the blackest radio program in existence, the only one of its kind on planet Earth today. Join us. And join us you better, because the screws are tightening now. Oh, it's getting terrible out there. A lot of you walked into the 21st century. Your parents did not prepare you, and because they did not prepare you, you are left to the savage wilds of your enemies. And it's only getting worse out there. This is the place that tells you about these things and predicts them for you years in advance. If you're not listening here, you were taken totally by surprise. A lot of people can tell you about what's happening. How many people can tell you about what's going to happen? Well, that's why you listen to the Black Channel, and so far we have been disturbingly accurate in every prediction that we have made down the line. We talk about these things with a precision and with a surgical analysis that other people simply do not have. Now, I want to tell you all a short story here, and it's the story of your life. It begins at the beginning of the 20th century, and it ends at the beginning of the 21st century, but it's the story of your life, although you were not very aware of it, not before now. You see, at the beginning of at the end of the 19th century, Marconi's invention, the radio, was going to change everything. It was going to change everything. Change the way that you see things, think about things. It was going to change everything. Literally. It was ever since Johannes Gutenberg invented the printing press. You've had mass communication ever since then. He gave a simple form. Well, not simple, but at least he gave a methodology whereby which people, for the first time in human history, had the ability to communicate in mass, had the ability to get their message out to the masses. First time this had ever occurred. That you could write something down, because before then, you all have to remember, before then, the Bible had to be transcribed, and in a lot of cases they had it transcribed by monks. I mean, they would sit there for months and years writing chapters of the Bible by hand. That was how it was disseminated before. It had to be written out. It had to be written out and disseminated that way. Johannes Gutenberg's invention, the printing press, gave you the ability to autonomously, by yourself, create books. You didn't need other people anymore. You could now create your own books. You could create your own books and distribute your own literature. This had never been done before. And for centuries, the printing press reigned as the way. It was the way to communicate to the masses. Newspapers were born. Printed books were born. And from there, you had mass communication. But with Marconi came something new. It was the first big change, the first major difference in mass communication. And with radio, as you all call it today, with radio, people no longer had to wait for you to print something anymore. For the first time in human history, you were able to communicate with other people across a great distance, across a wide, long, far distance. You could communicate with other people. This was like telephone, which had been invented a short time before that by Alexander Graham Bell, only this was a telephone that everybody could listen in on. Now, it was a one-way conversation, but it was a way that everybody could listen into that conversation. Radio became dominant. It became super dominant. But there was a serpent in the Garden of Eden. Because you see, radio had one fundamental flaw. The fundamental flaw of radio is that radio depends upon radio frequencies. And there are only a limited number of radio frequencies. And more than that, you could get your own radio broadcasting equipment and interrupt somebody else's frequency by broadcasting on the frequency that they're on. So the government had to step in and create rules of the road if we were going to have our national radio network. Unfortunately, the rules of the road were written by the worst people possible. They're written by the large corporations. And the corporations stepped in. There was one in particular. Hell, you ought to be able to guess their name. The Radio Corporation of America, also known as RCA. They stepped in. And they had all kinds of ideas as far as what radio should be and how radio should be quote-unquote regulated. And before it was over, this new medium that gave us the ability to communicate with each other like never before, the corporations had stepped in and stamped it out, put it under their control. And now it no longer does anything for the people. Beyonce does not serve us. Nicki Minaj does not serve us. Dance music does not serve you. Information serves you. They took over the medium so they could sell you things. Because an ignorant population is an easily controlled population. Then came Philo Farnsworth's invention. Philo Farnsworth was the man who, I guess you have to say, he beat everybody else to the patent office. Look it up. Philo Farnsworth perfected what you all would come to know as the cathode ray tube, which would become television. The first television transmission was a $sign. Philo Farnsworth put the picture of a $sign on the first television as a message to his investors. He was under no illusions about what this was going to do. For the first time in human history, not only could you communicate with human beings at a far distance, but now they would be able to see you. Now, radio was so dominant, so powerful, that a lot of people were saying, television, it'll never catch on. I mean, what's TV? It's just radio with pictures. What's the big deal? Literally, that's the conversation that was going on. Literally, that television was just radio with pictures. Who cares? Well, I think we all know what happened after that. Television became the predominant method of communication. But that serpent in the garden was back again. The serpent was back. The big corporations were back. And before television could even get off the ground, television was under the control of the big corporations. And the big corporations said there are only a limited number of frequencies. You might as well let us be in charge of television. You might as well let us control it. So much so to the point that Philo Farnsworth eventually found himself messed out of the profits. He invented television and enjoyed none of the profits from it. Look up Philo Farnsworth's story for yourself. I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. Then in the 1970s, a new medium came along. Cable television. Finally, we had an alternative to radio and TV, because you see, radio and TV, the corporations came and took that over at the very beginning. So none of us have ever grown up in a time that we did not know our televisions and radio stations controlled by big corporations for their interests. None of us have ever known a time that that was not the case, and that was the plan, to make sure that you never grew up with an expectation that TV was supposed to do something other than sell their corporate schlock. Then came cable, finally an alternative, but cable had its own problem. Cable's problem is that it was limited to the infrastructure built out, and you would be depending on those same big corporations to invest to build out more infrastructure. And they transformed cable television into just another adjunct of broadcast television. But about a decade later, something new hit the scene. The internet. The internet, since everybody's homes were already connected with their telephone lines, you had dial-up internet service, everybody had access to it. So it was accessible to everybody. It did not have a limited number of frequencies. It has an unlimited number of channels. And the best feature of all, two-way communication. Everybody connected to the internet has the ability to communicate with everybody else, including people they don't know. You had the power of your corporate television and radio stations without any of the hindrances. Well, what do you think the big boys thought about that? They couldn't take over the internet as easily as they had taken over television and radio. And that's where everybody started going, because you see, we can't trust the corporations. We can't trust them. So everybody started flooding to the internet because they're sick of TV and radio, something that they know is lying to them and they cannot control it. Did you think the corporations were going to go away? Hell no. They understand that this is their last stand. If they do not brainwash the current generation now and get them into believing now that they should be lucky just to have internet access, forget talking to other people. You should just be proud to have it, just like television. Even if you can't use it the way you want to use it, you should just be glad you have it. You got cable, but you can't pick and choose your channels. You should just be glad we give it to you. Well, guess who's back? And they actually think they've learned a few new tricks. I posted this article earlier today from Forbes magazine by Hugh McIntyre. YouTube is about to delete independent artists from its site. That's the headline. YouTube is about to delete independent artists from its site. He says, in only, quote, a matter of days, end quote, some of your favorite videos on YouTube could be gone, possibly for good. YouTube is preparing to radically change the site, adding a subscription service that's intended to help them compete in the streaming music industry. The Google-owned video site has already signed new licensing deals with all of the major record labels. Let me say that again. They've already signed new licensing deals with all of the major record labels. But many independents are refusing to take part. Apparently, not only are smaller indie labels not being offered the same deals as the majors, but the contracts that Google is putting in front of them are less than fair. Now, he has a link that takes you to a different story from The Guardian when he says that the contracts are less than fair. And the title of the article is, Will YouTube Really Block Indie Labels If They Snub Its New Service? They're not even giving you a chance to think this over. I guess they decided freedom is overrated after all. Now, the Guardian website story says independent artists could disappear from YouTube in a matter of days after they confirmed it was dropping content from independent labels that have not signed up for its upcoming subscription music service. YouTube is about to begin testing the new service, which will charge people to watch and listen to music without ads and download songs to their mobile devices within the next few days, initially within Google. The company's head of content and business operations told the Financial Times that the service, previously rumored to be called YouTube Music Pass, will launch more widely later in the year. His confirmation that YouTube will block videos from labels that do not sign licensing deals for the new premium tier will be hugely controversial among indie labels, with trade body WIN already filing a complaint to the European Commission about its negotiating strategy. Quote, while we wish that we had 100% success rate, we understand that is not likely an achievable goal, and therefore it's our responsibility to our users and the industry to launch the enhanced music experience, said Kinkle. He's the head of content and business operations at YouTube, claiming that YouTube has signed up labels representing 90% of the music industry. Now, those big record labels may represent 90% of the music industry, but do they represent 90% of the listeners? Do they represent 90% of the music buyers? But this is not about what's right or what's fair. This is about power, wealth, and influence. As I have tried repeatedly, in some cases in vain, to warn you, this is about power, wealth, and influence. Contacted by the independent labels are likely to disagree. Their licensing agency, Merlin, estimates that indies collectively account for 32.6% market share of the recorded music industry's sales and streams. 32.6%. Contacted by The Guardian following his comments, WIN's chief executive, Alison Wenham, was blunt in her response. Quote, they have suffered a simple but catastrophic error of judgment in misreading the market, she said. She has organized a press conference earlier in the month to protest YouTube's plans. Wenham said YouTube, quote, was setting itself up for failure and only a small number of independent labels would agree to its terms. We have tried and will continue to try to help YouTube understand just how important independent music is to any streaming service and why it should be valued accordingly. Music fans want a service that offers the complete range of music available. This is something that companies such as Spotify and Deezer do, both of whom have excellent relationships with the independent music sector, she said. WIN claims that the company has signed lucrative licensing deals with major labels Universal, that's Comcast, Warner, that's Time Warner, and Sony, while demanding that independent labels sign up on inferior terms or face having their videos blocked from YouTube's free service. So, no wonder Google Fiber has not really yelled very much about the big corporations fighting net neutrality, because Google wants the same power to choose what content you can see, just like AT&T and Comcast and Verizon do. The company that started out saying it would represent everybody else, that it would never be like the big guys. Well, I guess that was right up until they became one of the big guys, huh? I guess that was right up until they became one of the big guys. Now, the story goes on to say that the move comes as Amazon too, that's right, Amazon.com, has begun to flex its muscles in ways that limit the content its customers can receive. Amazon is delaying shipments and refused pre-orders for some titles from Hachette, publisher of Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling, and home to David Baldacci, Stephen Colbert, David Foster Wallace, and others. It's also pulled pre-orders for forthcoming Warner Home Video features, including international blockbuster The Lego Movie, 300 Rise of an Empire, Winter's Tale, and Transcendence. On YouTube, artists like Adele, Arctic Monkeys, and Jack White could see their videos taken down. The site has become a key promotional outlet for independent labels of all sizes in recent years. YouTube attracts more than 1 billion monthly viewers, with music one of its biggest categories. Its upcoming premium music service will compete with Spotify, Deezer, and Napster, among others, including Apple-owned Beats Music and Google's own Google Play Music All Access. Now, I went through that all tonight to tell you that it's not going to stop there. Don't fool yourself for a moment into thinking it's going to stop there, because it won't. You see, just like everything started with sound, the radio industry, it then moved on to the video broadcast, television, cable. So first, they're going to start with the music. First, they're going to start by telling you that you can listen to music from these big corporations. But Tech9 is an independent artist. So we will not allow Tech9 to play on our site. We're going to remove his channel, and we're not going to allow his music to play on our site, because he hasn't signed up for a slave deal. Kendrick Lamar and Nipsey Hussle, they were independent artists. Think about that for a while. Now, you all might say to yourselves, well, they're going to screw everybody, so what's this got to do with black folk? Because I'm concerned about my people, because when white folk catch a cold, black people catch pneumonia. We already don't have access to the radio and television markets as it is. We need to have these kind of things open and available to us. And it costs millions of dollars to start a website like YouTube. It costs millions to do that. You see, with radio and television, they killed the baby in its crib. And now they're here for the internet. People have actually started asserting themselves and saying, hey, we want to see this. We want to see this the way our way. And they're now trying to make sure you have no options available to you. Will the people accept it? I don't know. The people accepted George W. Bush and Barack Obama. You tell me. What I do know is that they're not going to stop with music. It's not going to stop there. Next, it will be the movies. How long will it be before YouTube starts to say that you can't see trailers for movies like Hidden Colors 4? You can't see that. We're going to take down stuff for Hidden Colors because, you see, King Flex Entertainment has not signed a deal with us. So we're not going to have any of that playing on our site. Black Channel Films has not signed a deal with us. So we're not going to carry any of their stuff. What are you going to do then? Do we as black people have a Hollywood network in place? Look it up. You see, if we had a proper code of conduct, we would have a network in place already where we communicate to our people. The reason that other people come from their countries and they retain their languages and their cultures because they understand that that is the only way to protect their people, by having a proprietary means of communication. That's not just a nifty idea, it's how you protect your people. It's how you protect them. It's how you gain and consolidate power for yourself. It's how you prevent yourself from being at the mercy of other people. Because right now, what do we have? World Star Hip Hop, give me a damn break. BET, oops. AOL Black Voices, yikes. What do we have? Who is representing the streets? That's what I want to know. Who is representing the streets? I'm having trouble and issues out of Amazon right this moment. Behind 7 a.m. I am having trouble and difficulties out of them right now. Right now. And maybe that's a sign to do something different as far as that's concerned. Who knows? But most of our people go there first, because we do not have a common code of conduct that says, first of all, we don't have another place to go. And second of all, we don't have a common code of conduct that says we're supposed to have another place to go. We don't have that. We don't have that. You know, why is it we don't have a situation where you can have somebody like a Tariq Nasheed or somebody like that who would be able to take this and give us an alternative to it? Why is it we don't have an alternative? You know, it would be good if this is why distribution is important. If you all want to know what distribution is and why distribution is important, that's why. Why don't we have something like that? Why is it we've been sitting up here? Jeff Bezos' company does not have, has been hemorrhaging money from the very start. Why don't we have our own? You got YouTube, which is what? A distribution platform. Why don't we have our own? Black people spend billions on weaves, billions on hair. We spend all this money and hand it off to other people, and we enhance their power, wealth, and influence. We enhance their platforms. They're not going to give a damn about us. They're not looking out for us at all. YouTube is not looking out for us. Amazon is not looking out for us. They're not doing that at all. They're not doing that at all. And we need that. That's something that we are sorely lacking in. We need that. We need to have our own distribution platform in place. We need it. We don't have it, but we need it. Because our children are about to go into the 21st century not having the ability to communicate with each other. They're about to go into the 21st century not having the ability to communicate with each other. Looking to people outside of the community, outside of their people, to help them to communicate with each other. That's what we're about to do. That's what we're going to do. We are going to teach our children that smart Africans look outside the community first. Smart Africans rely on other people, are dependent on other people. As black people, we've got billions of dollars. We got billions for church. We got billions of dollars for church. Billions. We got churches on every corner. No businesses. And the few businesses that you do have, they belong to other people. They belong to other people. That's where your businesses are. But see, we have grown accustomed to that. We've grown accustomed to that, and we've grown used to that idea that we're telling ourselves that other people are going to look out for us. So you see, it's not necessary for me to build my own. It's not necessary. Somebody else is going to do the hard work of taking care of me. Somebody else is going to see to it that I have what I need. And what I'm telling you is that they are here to take the 21st century away from you, like they took the 20th century away from you. So you'll have an internet with only a few websites that actually communicate to the masses. Now, will it be easy to do that? Well, no. That's why they're starting now. So there will only be a few hot sites, and everybody else is struggling to get the word out. I want to know who's representing the streets. Because right now, you've got me, you got Tariq, you got a couple of other people, and that's it. Who is representing our people? Who is representing our people's best interests? Who is allowing our children to be able to pursue their fullest potential? Who's doing that? These are simple questions I'm asking. Who is doing that? Who is representing the streets for us? Last year we had 7 a.m. Well, not last year, but I mean, at the end of last year, starting going into this year, we had 7 a.m. We had 7 a.m. people, and as a people, that was important. It is important to do that. But you have to understand how fragile the situation is. The situation is very, very fragile. And that is why we have to do everything in our power to start supporting things that actually help us. We've lost so much. We need to start supporting things that are actually going to be in our benefit. Now, right now, and I'm glad to say that Hidden Colors 4 surpassed its goal within, it made a goal of $60,000. They passed the goal in less than 2 weeks. That's good. But I mean, that thing ought to be hitting at 500,000 people. It ought to be hitting at 500,000. But we've got black folk who are waiting for white folk to come bring them their daily bread. And because of that, we're sitting around waiting. And let somebody else do that. Let somebody else take care of that. I don't have to do that. Let somebody else deal with it. That's what we're doing as black folk. We're waiting on somebody else to sit up here and take care of our needs. I want you all to understand something right now. I just went to, if you go to Google right now, everybody, go to Google right now and just type in the letters EXPL or EXPLO. That's all I want you to do. Go to Google and just type in the letters EXPLO and watch what happens when you do. The first thing that it auto suggests when you type in EXPLO doesn't take you to explore. It takes, the first auto suggestion is exploding kittens. That's the first auto suggestion that Google gives you when you type in EXPLO. And why? I'll tell you why. Reading from Engadget 15 hours ago, Mariella Moon, card game about exploding kittens takes over Oya's Kickstarter record. The internet loves cats, so it just seems fitting that a Kickstarter campaign called Exploding Kittens has dethroned Oya as the highest funded project in the site's games category. It was created by Xbox game designers Ellen Lee and Shane Small. Now, listen to the story about this, okay? Listen to the story about this in just a moment. But it's not a video game, if that's what you're thinking. Instead, it's a card game illustrated by their co-creator, Matthew Inman of The Oatmeal, which the internet loves almost as much as it loves cats. We're talking about a project that raised a whopping $8.7 million, which is more than Oya made, putting it in third place among the campaigns that earned the most money. It also holds the record for the biggest number of backers, 219,000, or 100,000 more than Reading Rainbow got when LeVar Burton did his Kickstarter for Reading Rainbow. They had 100,000 more backers. A 100,000 more. I don't know what to tell you about that. It became the most backed project in Kickstarter history. The most backed in history. 219,000 backers. That was more than double. LeVar Burton was the most backed, and that was PBS. That was pulling on your childhood heartstrings. And he only had half as many. I'm glad to see my people were represented. But, and let me tell you, here's the last kicker in the back of the neck. The last kicker. Their goal when they set out to make this video game, their goal was $10,000. Not 10 million, not 100,000, $10,000. And they raised $8,782,500. $571 for a damn card video game. For a damn app. They asked for 10,000 and their people almost gave them 10 million. They asked for $10,000. 10,000, and their people gave them almost 1,000 times what they asked for. What this means is that they can basically go start their own video game company now. Doing nothing but making video games. They can now start their own video game company. They can now do that, and all these other people to be able to do is sit here and say, hey, man, why is it we couldn't get that done? That's all we can say over here. We're on Hidden Colors 4, and we're talking about black people's survival. We're on 7 a.m., and we're talking about black people's survival. And we have been unable to see anything similar to that happening. Now that's bad on us. That's bad on us. That in white society, they will make millionaires out of somebody for wanting to make a video game. In black society, we can barely creep across the finish line when we're talking about our very survival at stake. We can barely creep across the finish line. That's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. I know they've been having some issues with the phones here tonight, but hopefully that has been resolved here. The telephone number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Well, you can see it on your computer screens. And you definitely want to go ahead and let's hear from you about that, because understand something, people. When your enemies make millionaires out of cop killers, that tells you that they understand that it's not spirituality that's going to win nothing. Invoking spirituality is the language of cowards. Invoking spirituality is the language of cowards and con men. Cowards and con men want to sit up here and have you fixate on intangibles. Cowards and con men want you to focus on things you can't see and can't measure. Cowards and con men want you to look at stuff that you have no confirmation of. That's what they do. And unfortunately, black society is absolutely filled to bursting with cowards and con men. We've accepted them in our families. We absolutely love them at our churches. We adore them at our schools. We worship them as our entertainment. People who are blatantly lying to our faces. Telling us that I'm going to give you something. Now, you can't see it. You can't smell it. You can't hear it. You can't taste it. You can't touch it. No proof that it's actually there, but this thing that you cannot see, smell, touch, taste, hear, feel, detect, it is the most important thing in your life, because this thing, my love, my affection, my religion, whatever, this matters more than anything, because it will make you powerful. If you will just believe in my religion, if you will just believe what I believe, this will make you powerful. That's what they tell you. It'll make you powerful. And if you will submit to that, then it's going to fix all the problems that you have. Now, let's go across the street. Let's go take a look over there in white society. And what did they do? When they sent George Zimmerman to murder Trayvon Martin, it was because they knew the fix was in. You didn't know it, but they did. They knew exactly what they were going to do, and the fix was in. It was in from day one. And you showed up with the usual suspects. You showed up with the intangibles people. You showed up with your celebrities. You showed up with your pastors. You showed up with your pimp preachers. You showed up with the usual suspects. You did not show up prepared to go to war. Because when you show up prepared to go to war, what you do is you bring your money. You bring your financial resources. That's what you do. You don't sit up here and talk about going into a physical situation and you are going to respond with intangibles. You are going to do nothing but get yourself killed chasing that. And your enemies are proud. I mean, your enemies are happy to have that. Your enemies are happy to have that because they understand that you did not actually come with the intention of actually fighting and winning. You just showed up with the intention of showing up. And that you are relying on something, probably a lie that he gave you as a matter of fact, but you didn't actually come in a manner that's going to fight him. It's not going to stop him. It's not going to impede his power. You see, we want people to tell us that our survival is going to be easy. That's what we want. And the worst thing in the world that you can possibly do is walk into a situation like this and think that your survival will be easy. So my question is, who's representing the streets? And what have you all done to show similar support to those who are representing the streets? That's what I want to know. Go ahead and take a couple of phone calls here. Caller from 313, you're on live with the Black Channel.
Greetings. This is William from Detroit.
William from Detroit, what's on your mind, brother?
I really appreciate the information that you give out, disseminate. However, I had some questions that I wanted to ask you, if that's acceptable. Hello?
Yes, brother, go on.
Okay. I hear you you use the term white supremacy quite often. I just want to know, do you think or feel that you too are subject of racism, white supremacy?
Do I feel that I am a subject of it? What do you mean?
Well, that if racism, white supremacy is in control, are you a subject of it, or are you free of it? You know, in a manner of speaking, like you don't exist within that realm.
We are all subjects to white supremacy. There would be no fight for liberation if we were not. We are all subjects to white supremacy, all of us. They have a system in place that controls, that has purview and influence, dominating influence in every aspect of society. Your educational system, your media, your courts, your governments, your social organizations, your civic organizations, your churches. They've got it down the line. They've got it down the line. There is literally no facet of society that you can go into that they do not have dominance in. You don't have it. It's not there. So every single one of us is a subject of and under the influence of white supremacy. I mean, literally tonight, they could walk into your house, they could walk into my house tonight and shoot us, shoot our families, whatever. Tell me, what could we do about it? What could we realistically do about it as a group? Because we have not latched on to the ways of power. What could we actually do? That's my question. What could we do? That's how you know that you're dominated by it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir. Oh, I'm listening, sir. Go ahead.
Well, if you're on planet Earth today, you are subject to and dominated by white supremacy. If you're on planet Earth today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I wholeheartedly agree with that. The second thing I wanted to ask you is about black empowerment. Now, I did patronize 7 a.m., though I didn't go see it. You know, I don't think that I had to agree with all of your thoughts on things to support you, because at the end of the day, we are a part of the same group. So I did that. However, I wanted to ask you about the black part in black empowerment. Black, it seems like to me, black has a negative connotation that's been placed around it. I couldn't even quantify how long it's been, and I'm trying to figure out, can we really excel under that banner of black, seeing that we really don't know what that means? And let me try to explain a little bit further what I'm saying. When we
yes,
were in school,
please do.
Yes, sir. Before we even went to school, we used to watch things on television, Sesame Street and whatnot. We had crayon boxes. White supremacy taught us what these colors were. They said, this is yellow, this is red, this is white, this is black. When we got a little bit older, they said, you too are black. Now, that right there shows the dominance that they have over our mind to create context and then erode context at the same time. Now, so what I'm saying is that, thinking about it from a logical perspective, objectively, to me, it seems like there's no difference in calling someone black, African American, nigger. It seems like they're all synonymous. And I was wondering, what do you think about that?
I think nothing of it. Now, are you going to ask me why, or are you just going to sit there in stunned silence?
Oh, I wasn't stunned at all. I suspected that you would.
Now, okay, you suspected that I would. Why so?
Because you made the statement, or you responded. I would think that you would.
Okay,
Want, your listeners.
Yeah, you don't know why. You don't know why I said it. The reason why I said that I don't think anything of it, because it doesn't matter. Who are the most powerful people on the planet right now? White society.
White people.
Now, what do they call themselves? They don't call themselves
white.
Anything. Wrong. They don't call themselves anything. They get on television, they get on radio, they get on the internet, with the exception of the dummies over there at Stormfront and whatnot. They don't call themselves white. They say we are America. They say we are Europe. They say we are the good people. They say we are good Christians. They don't ever refer to themselves as a racial category. They have become so powerful that they just are. So when you say America, America is synonymous. There is no box to check. When we say that the problem with America, what we really mean is the problem with white folk. The American court system is racist. Wrong. There is no man called America running the court system. The court system is dominated by white supremacists. That's where the problem is. So we can get sidetracked off into etymological masturbatory sessions if we want to, but the most powerful people in the world don't even refer to themselves as a racial category. They just are. They don't talk to you about what their race is. They show you through their actions, through their group economics, their group think, their group contagion, their group experience, their group influence. That's where they show you that they're white. They don't tell you. There was not one person who sat up here and said, I'm white, I'm a racist, and I'm giving money to Darren Wilson. I'm white, I'm a racist, and I'm giving money to Daniel Pantaleo. I'm white, I'm a racist, and I'm giving money to George Zimmerman. They just started writing checks. And then when you looked at the checks, you noticed that there was a similarity between where all that money was coming from. So you are the one who made the connection that, whoa, this is white supremacy. You're the one who made that connection and started putting that. When you started saying that it was a white issue, what did they tell you? When you tried to say to white people that the murder of Trayvon Martin, Mike Brown, Eric Garner, that these were racial issues, what did they tell you? They told you, quote, 4 words, it's not about race. So you see, they do everything in their power to avoid racial categorization for themselves. They avoid labels. They avoid names because they know once you give it a name, you've given it an identity, a presence, and you have subscribed it to a specific entity. They avoid names. They avoid labels. They avoid it at all costs. What they do not avoid is power. Because you see, once you have power, labels become irrelevant. And as black people, we chase labels, we chase titles, we chase names, because we think that's where power is. And all we're really doing is intellectually masturbating, because if we had real power, we wouldn't have the time to sit around and worry about labels and names. I'll just tell it to you like this. We can call ourselves whatever you think we need to call ourselves. Whatever it may be, whatever name that you think that we as people of African melanated descent should name ourselves. Whatever that label is, brother, I'm all for it. I'm all with it. I'm on board. Now that we all agree on what our name is, what are we going to do about white supremacy now? What's your plan?
Was that rhetorical?
No, that's a literal question. Now that we agree with you on whatever name it is that you want us to call ourselves, that's fine. We agree on that now. I'm on board with you. Whatever you're selling, I'm buying. Now that we agree on what name we're going to label ourselves, what do we do? That problem of white supremacy is still there, and this name did not help us 1 inch in stopping him. So do you have what is the plan now to deal with white supremacy, since all of us agreeing on a label didn't touch it? What's the plan?
Okay. Well, I'll preface my statements by saying this. That was kind of a projected statement, because I never once, I may have pointed out something, because that's all I'm pretty much doing. I'm trying to shift the conversation, so I think that's an integral part of liberation, being able to shift the conversation and not go around in circles. I don't believe in a whole or no end that we should classify ourselves, because, at the end of the day, if there is such a thing as racism, white supremacy, the only way that we could classify ourselves under a quote-unquote label is from a delusional state of mind, because we don't even control that. So we could tell ourselves, yeah, we're going to call ourselves this, we're going to call ourselves that, but at the end of the day, it wouldn't matter.
Why wouldn't it matter?
Well, if racism, white supremacy is dominating and they have control of classifications, whatever we decide to call ourselves, it would really have no bearings on us defeating racism, white supremacy. And they don't even have to stamp it with approval.
Okay.
It'll just be some delusional thing like, hey, we're going to call ourselves this, with no power, no wealth, no influence. So
okay, well, it's only delusional if you're dependent upon them. When you are independent, you write the rules for yourself. Black people do not have the ability to write the rules for ourselves because we don't have an independent structure of our own. White supremacy is always going to be a presence so long as they have the measure of power, wealth, and influence that they have. The real goal is, what do I have to do to be powerful enough that white supremacy cannot harm me? Because it's always going to be there. We're not going to make them non-racist or less white supremacists. That's not going to happen. So the real question is, what do we have to do to become powerful enough that we can begin writing the rules on our own terms? Now, nobody makes you black. And the acceptance of our identity, that's not something we get from white people. That's something we get from ourselves. But the problem is that we keep looking to them to validate us. And as long as we look to them spiritually, then we will never have our own identity, which is why most black people are very happy to try to forget slavery, because they want to take on an identity that's impossible. They want to take on a white identity. But because white people do not call their identity white, they deluded you into thinking that, oh, if you just agree with everything we say, you can, quote, be like us and race doesn't matter. That's impossible. Of course it matters. But it's a delusion. And that statement that race doesn't matter, that's not meant for white consumption, because they know it does. That's meant for non-white consumption, to delude those who are easily gullible. But they know that's not true. And the goal is, do you know it's not true? As long as you know it's not true, then we as a people, it only matters what we believe. But that only has any effect or any significance if we are actually building something. It's not it is pointless. Even if we all agree tomorrow that we are Africans, black, melanated people, that is worthless and irrelevant if we're not building anything. Completely and totally worthless and irrelevant, because we're not building anything. Okay, we're black, we're African, we're melanated, whatever. Okay, now what are you building? What are you applying? What is the significance of that Africanness? And the answer is, there is none. Because you're not actually going anywhere with it. You might as well be a street post or a tree. Actually, not even that. You might as well not even be there, because at least a street post and a tree have a function. They're actually performing and doing something. As African people, if we're not actually doing something, then what do we need a label for? What do we need a name for? And what good is that identity doing us? We are Africans. Well, what does it mean to be African? Well, we just sit and do nothing. Well, hell, it doesn't sound like being African has much use. It doesn't sound like that identity actually means anything. And that's the problem we're running into.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I definitely, like I said in the beginning of the conversation, I feel that you do disseminate pertinent information that me, myself, I can only speak for myself. Certain things that you said, I do appreciate, and I see them as logical. However, I will say that in a system of white supremacy, to use the words of Amos Wilson, there's no such thing as a sane black person at all. So I think that no one should be above reproach, but however, I don't feel that we should engage in name calling. This is just my opinion. We shouldn't engage in name calling because it's all in service of white supremacy, just as us working a job or owning our own business within white supremacy is in service of white supremacy.
Who's name calling?
I've heard you use epithets like Coon and whatnot. You know, I'm like I said again. I feel that we can have conversation. I feel that we can disagree without being disagreeable. Because, like I said, at the end of the day, Jason Black is a part of the group that I'm a part of. Period. He is not my enemy. Period. And that's why I chose to, though I didn't see the movie or make an effort to go see the movie, I still paid money because I'm behind you. But that does not mean that I have to agree with everything that you disseminate. then that's fine because no one who's black is above reproach.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you were thinking about it in those terms. I'm not really sure what your problem is with it, though. You haven't explained what the problem is with it.
Which portion do you think I have a problem with?
I'm not understanding why you. I'm
said?
not understanding why you have a. You call it name calling. I don't understand why.
Well, epithets. I think that we've been taught under racism, white supremacy, to interact with each other, just like the music that you have playing now. Have you ever analyzed that TV show, Sanford and Son? Now we wonder why we all have this thing that we sit around and use epithets and talk about each other. And guess what? A lot of us were sat up in front of that TV voluntarily and watched more than 25 episodes of Fred Sanford and Son.
Okay, first of all, let's make a couple of things straight here, okay? Let's make a couple of things straight here. You said we sit around and talk about each other. Now, I have a question for you. I have a question for you. Now, what was it you said your name was again?
William.
William from Detroit. If you all want to know why Detroit's in the shape it's in, Exhibit A. William, is Clarence Thomas a coon?
Clarence Thomas is a victim of racism, white supremacy, just like you.
Okay.
And just like myself.
Okay, is Larry Elder a coon?
Larry Elders is a
Elder. His name is Elder. There's no S on his name, sir. Let's try take twos. Let's try it again. Is Larry Elder a coon?
He's a victim / tool of racism, white supremacy, just like you. And just like myself.
So what you're saying is what? That he's misunderstood? Because he's working against black people in the service of white racists. He's actually stating that he is against black people.
That's true. Now, if you have a subject, it's easy to grab your subjects and use them in service against their own people. Now you know that you're well read. I can tell.
Okay, but you said use them against their own people. When you are a person who fights against your own people, what does that make you?
I guess you would say a traitor.
Okay, now you're name calling. Why are you name calling?
No, I was answering a question.
Okay, yes, you are. You're name calling. You are name calling. You're name calling. Why did you name call them? Traitor is a name calling. That's a pejorative term. You're name calling. If he says he's not a traitor, who are you to go around saying that he's a traitor to his people?
I never said he was a traitor.
We just agreed that they're working against their own people. We just agreed on that.
Yeah,
and I said what? And then I said, what do you call a person who works against their own people? And you said a traitor. Now that's what you said.
I also said other things.
Well, it's not also. That's what you said. That's the gist of it. You said these guys are working against their own people, and people who work against their own people are traitors. You didn't think this out very well. When we have individuals who latch on to sentences and they try to latch on to certain things, because Amos Wilson said a lot of stuff and he wouldn't agree with nothing you're saying on this phone right now. But in any case, black folk have their own agendas, and then kind of like religion, we go off and go try to look for things to reinforce what we already believe, not to come to a subjective, objective truth, but just to go cherry pick things that reinforce what we believe, not to actually take the totality of it so that we have a clear world view. You've already stated it. Now, if you are going to say that we shouldn't go around calling names because you're on this we shouldn't judge people kick, then by definition, you can't say anything about Larry Elder, Clarence Thomas, or Charles Barkley, Stephen A. Smith. You can't say anything about any of them other than they are victims. That's all you can say, but you can't call them traitors. You can't say anything, and what you're actually doing is condoning their behavior, because we can't blame a victim, and we can't say anything negative about a victim, even if he is consciously, willingly going along with the enemy. You're trying to find some way to absolve them of their guilt, and I'm saying that they are people who are consciously making decisions, and you want to give them a pass, and I'm not going to give a traitor a pass. I'm not going to do that. Now, you may be desperate to give them one, but I'm not.
Well, I think what you're doing right now is projecting your ideas and your paradigms onto me.
You were the one who said they were traitors. You were the one who said that. Now, you didn't know you were going to say that because you've never actually thought this out. But when I asked you, are they working against our best? They're working against our best interests. What do you call a person who works against their own people? A traitor. You would call him a traitor. Well, okay. You were the one who said it. Now, unless you're about to sit here right now and say that Clarence Thomas, Larry Elder, Charles Barkley, and Stephen A. Smith are not, in fact, traitors, if you're about to try to walk this backward, because you already walked into it, but if now you are about to attempt to walk it backwards, and you're now about to try to say that, well, they can work against their people and they can declare themselves enemies of their people, but at the same time not be traitors against their people, I want you to think long and hard before you try to rationalize or try to find some way to intellectualize the explanation you're about to give before you give it, so that nobody here can say I didn't give you a fair warning not to try that. So, go ahead and tell me, if they are not traitors, are you now going to say that those people are in fact not traitors?
All right, do you want me to respond?
I want you to respond to this question. Are you now saying that the people that you just said are traitors are not traitors? Is that what you're saying now?
Well, I will reiterate. When you asked the question, I said that they will be traitors, I suspect, based on how you and your
I'm asking you. I'm asking you. A person who fights against his own people in the service of their enemies. What do you call that person?
Well, here's what I will say.
I asked you a simple question, and if you can't answer a simple question directly, then you need to rethink what you actually believe. You should be able to simply answer that question.
I'm about to answer it directly.
It doesn't take a 10-minute dissertation. That was a yes or no question. Are they traitors?
That's a yes or no question?
Yeah, there's a Merriam-Webster dictionary. There is a Merriam-Webster dictionary that defines a traitor. Do those people qualify for the definition of a traitor? That's really a yes or no question. Do they qualify or do they not?
If they're black in the context of white supremacy, I say no.
Okay, if they're black in the context of white supremacy.
Correct.
Okay, now, are there any other terms that you don't like? Like racist.
Like racist?
Yes.
I wouldn't say that. I don't normally call white people, because those are the only people who can be racist from, my studies. But I don't call them racist unless they say, yes, I'm a racist. Other than that, every white person is a suspected racist to me. Now, that doesn't mean that I call them crackers, call them names and whatnot. And that doesn't mean I'd be discourteous when I speak with them.
Okay, but you're name calling. But you're name calling. And you're name calling them.
It's not name calling.
Yes, it is. That's the same as telling people that you're a suspected pedophile. I suspect that William.
We would know that that's not definite.
I suspect that William is a pedophile. William is a suspected pedophile.
Oh, that would be fine.
Okay, so you would be fine with people saying that you're a suspected pedophile.
Sure, because I understand the definition of suspected.
And this is how far some folks in black society will go in order to justify their stubborn refusal to admit that, yeah, I was just wrong. I mean, and I asked you that twice, and you said twice I wouldn't have any problem with people saying I'm a suspected pedophile.
What am I supposed to?
Have
I mean,
you,
what does it mean having a problem
William?
with them saying that? What's that gonna do?
Well, it's not. It's not about that. It's about, is it true or not? Now, if you're gonna sit here and say it doesn't matter what the truth is, then you're ready for a rubber room. But if the truth does matter,
not what I said.
Yes,
you just superimposed that.
No, what I'm saying is that either what I'm saying is that either it matters or it doesn't. If you're going to say that it doesn't matter if they say I'm a suspected pedophile, you are the word suspected does not nullify the claim or the accusation. They are accusing you of being a pedophile. They are simply saying that we don't have enough evidence to be conclusive, but there is enough evidence to suspect.
It's conjecture, sir.
Okay, but there's enough evidence to suspect.
It's without proof.
There's enough. There's enough proof that we can level the accusation that you bear watching more than everybody else.
Only if you're white.
Okay, well, in your case, then people can say that you're a suspected pedophile. In your case, we can say that you're a suspected pedophile then, and that we need to watch you more than other people. We need to watch you more than other men. You're a suspected pedophile.
Now, you back a couple of months ago, you had some very great broadcasts when you were talking about how black males are kind of emotional. Now, I'm not emotional about someone bringing forth conjecture towards me with no proof. That's like someone calling me a nigger or something,
If you're not emotional about somebody making a claim like that, you've got serious mental and emotional problems. If you are okay with somebody leveling the accusation that you are possibly a pedophile, if you're okay with that and that doesn't bother you, you've got serious mental and emotional issues. You're not making your point seem more logical or more rational or more civil. You're blowing your head off and reloading.
Your rhetoric is definitely fascinating, and I see that
it's not rhetoric, and I'm not fascinating. It's common sense. It's common sense.
I'm sorry.
I would not let somebody sit up here. Anybody who would sit up here and tell you that you literally sat here and said it wouldn't bother me if people said I was a suspected pedophile. In other words, what you say is that you don't care what your name means. Your name means nothing to you. Your reputation means nothing to you. Your credibility means nothing to you. That you walk in a room full of kindergartners and people say, whoa, there's the suspected pedophile. Are you still going to say that it does? Whoa. Are you still going to say that being a suspected pedophile does not bother you when you go to your child's school to pick them up? It still doesn't bother you?
I would say absolutely not, me personally. And if that means that you feel that I have a rubber room, now, however, I will say that you making those claims that you just made, right? Saying if someone says these things about a person and they already have them prejudged, I'm guessing I suspect that's what you mean.
It's not about prejudged. The accusations have to be true. You're trying to sit up here and pretend that you can make words mean what you want them to, and they don't. They have meanings. And if somebody says that they are suspecting that you are a criminal, they are suspect, that means that you have done something. You have done something that makes them suspicious.
Yourself, right?
They are telling you that you've done something that makes them suspicious. Now, either you did something that made, excuse me, William. Either you did something that makes them suspicious or you didn't. Either they're telling the truth that you in fact have done something that justifies their suspicion, or they're lying. One or the other. It can't be both ways, and you trying to say, well, if they say suspected, then that doesn't mean anything. Well, in a court of law, I suppose, but a prosecutor would never bring a case against a suspected anything. A prosecutor's going to bring a case because, well, technically, they're only supposed to bring a case. But no prosecutor goes in front of a judge and says, Your Honor, this is a suspected pedophile. The judge is going to say, okay, what has he done that makes you suspect him? Well, Your Honor, I just don't like him. The judge would put the prosecutor in jail. So the prosecutor is going to tell the judge, I can't conclusively prove that he touched this child, but the child says, and we do have video that shows him in the vicinity of the child at the time. So he is suspected. It is definitely suspect. It's possible, which is what suspect means, suspicion. It is possible that based on what we have, it is possible, more likely than not, that he did something. Now, if you are sitting up here saying that if you think that the word suspected nullifies the accusation, racist, pedophile, criminal, cheater, liar, if you think that the word suspected nullifies it, like I say, you need to go read a dictionary and stop trying to fight Webster's. Because at this point, we're in the 21st century. You are not going to undefine the word suspected. You're not going to undefine it. You're not going to do that.
Same way that you can't undefine the term black, sir.
I didn't undefine it.
You're laboring under delusions
I'm not.
now.
Wait a minute. Who said I undefined it? Who said I undefined it? Who said that? When have I ever undefined? When have I ever taken the definition of black away from black? When have I ever done that?
Black empowerment is an oxymoron. By definition, by the term which white people set forth.
How long
now,
have
either
you?
That's true or it's not.
William, how old are you, William?
I'm 33.
You're 33. William.
Yes, sir.
How much about the world do you know at 33?
I wouldn't say that I know a lot.
Okay. Have you ever been to jail, William?
No.
You've never been in jail?
No.
You've never been in prison?
No.
You've never done time and joined the Nation of Islam or some other weird, wacky, way out, esoterical, transcendent organization? And started questioning the dictionary from A to Z. Have you ever? Has that ever happened? You can tell us. You can be honest with us. You can tell us.
Well, definitely. I'm not afraid of that. I have a great respect for words and the definitions, right?
Apparently not, because you don't have respect for suspected. You don't have respect for that one. I found one word you don't have respect for.
Oh, okay, well, let me say it. Suspect, if you look it up, it says have an idea or impression of an existence, presence, or truth of something without certain proof.
Without certain proof.
Right.
Okay, without certain,
exactly.
Excuse me, without certain
right.
proof, not without any
exactly.
proof, not without any,
right.
Without certain, not without any.
And that definitely goes with what you said when you made the claims of if someone is around a child, they have a videotape, and that you were around the child. I agree with that, sir.
Okay, but here's the point.
Suspected is not name calling because it's not definite.
No, suspected is not name calling.
Guilty, correct?
Suspected is not name calling. You keep focusing on suspected. It's the word after suspected that is the name calling. If you don't have certain evidence, you should not be calling me anything.
So they don't do that in the court of law, correct, sir? Is that what you're saying?
No,
they don't say They may not use those terms, but they're bringing the case forth because they suspect that this person is a criminal.
Okay,
a robber,
you need to, while you're looking up
rapist.
things, go look up the word formality. While you're looking up stuff, go look up the word formality. You see, there are certain formalities that you must go through when you go into court because you have a constitution that says that the person is innocent until proven guilty. We cannot say that he's a criminal because he has not been through the process yet. And we cannot say he is innocent because he has been accused. So we can call him the accused. That's an objective. That's an adjective term. And we can call him, that's an objective adjective. We can call him a suspect because that's an objective adjective. The prosecutor is saying, I have seen enough that I believe you are guilty of a crime. But the law says that I have to take you to a judge. I can't just throw you in jail myself. So until the judge says that you are guilty because I am an agent of the state. I say you're guilty. That's why I'm taking you to the judge. When the judge says you're guilty, you are no longer a suspect. You are convicted.
Correct.
Now, I just walked you through that process from beginning to end there. Clearly, you didn't know anything about it, but now that it's been illuminated for you, now you won't make the mistake anymore of thinking that suspect somehow separates you from the word that comes after it. Because the prosecutor has the ability to arrest you and take your freedom from you. The judge is the one who signs off on it is just what the prosecutor did and how long you will stay without your freedom.
That's all very interesting, sir.
That's not interesting. That's judicial fact. That's a fact. That's not interesting. That's a fact. So now that we've illuminated what suspect means, and that suspect, the preparatory does not nullify the execution, pedophile, criminal, racist, liar, cheater, adulterer. The word suspected does not nullify it. And you're trying to pretend in this alternate reality that, oh, if it's suspected, it nullifies the word that comes after it. No, it doesn't, because by definition, if it nullified it, we would not be using the words at all. If you're not guilty of something, or if they're not accusing you of something, then we would not be saying anything. Whether you are a pedophile or a suspected pedophile, those are both accusations. Both of them. Now, if you're going to try to sit here and say that somebody's saying that you've done something and somebody's saying you're suspected of doing something, that only one of those is an accusation, even though they're both targeting you, then you don't know the definition of the word accuse. You might want to bone up on suspect, formality, convicted, accused. You might want to bone up on some of those. Because it's looking bad out here today. It's looking real bad. We're trying to intellectualize these things because what you want to do is you're upset because I call coons coons. But then when I said, well, by the way, you just did that, you want to have the ability to say that white folk are racist, or at least let's put a stigma on them. But here's the problem with that. The problem with that is that white supremacy has agents and has apparatchiks working inside of black society. And you're not going to do a clean sweep until you get rid of white supremacy and those who serve it. You got to get them all because they're all part of the same system. They're all part of the same organism. And we use the words that identify the enemies within. So racist identifies the enemies. Racist white supremacy identifies the enemy from without. Sellouts, coons, and bedwenches identifies the enemy within. In no uncertain terms, making it black and white. There is no confusion about who is in and who is out, who is helping us and who is hurting us. And what you want to do is you're trying to figure out some way to say that they're like us, which is what you said before. They are, like us, victims of white supremacy. Let me tell you something, buddy. Nobody who is a soldier for white supremacy against Africans is my friend or is like me. I ain't got nothing in common with him. You may be my color, but you're not my kind. Now, they may be like you. They might be like you, William, but they're not like me.
You know you just contradicted yourself, right, sir?
I haven't contradicted myself.
That, right?
You might want to bone up on the word contradiction. While you're looking up this etymological list I've given you, while we're rebuilding your lexicon, you might want to look up contradiction. Just for funsies. You might want to look it up.
Sir, I think that your demagogism is very interesting.
Demagogism. Demagogism. Will you please show me demagogism? Demagogism. Did you mean to say demagoguery? Was that perhaps the word you were groping and fumbling around in the dark for? Was that the term you were looking for? Demagoguery.
Sir, you don't embarrass me.
Sir, I can't embarrass you. You're embarrassing yourself.
You all can go and read up on that.
You're embarrassing yourself.
For the listening audience, go look that word up. And I'll leave you with the words of the suspected racist, Dr. Robert Jensen. The
Um,
problem is white people. Goodbye, sir.
brothers and sisters, this has been your brain on drugs, is all I can say. But he has introduced us to his lexicon, where there is demagogism. Apparently, this is something similar to demagoguery. So, he's from Detroit. I can tell you that. He is from Detroit. And if you wanted to know in one simple conversation right here tonight why Detroit is ass backwards, you just found out for yourself. Why Detroit is ass backward. Let's see if we can take another phone call here tonight. Let me get caller from 281. You're on live with the Black Channel. Okay, sounds like they're having bingo night at the parlor. People, if you're gonna smoke your weed or whatever, please don't immediately go and jump on the phone. That's not cool. That's not cool at all. Yes, sir, brothers and sisters. That's exactly what we're looking for here tonight, isn't it? Let me get here. Caller from 661, please save me.
What's going on, brother?
Brothers and sisters from around the world, it is King Flex himself, Tariq Nasheed. This is what I get for you taking a night off. Your crazies are calling my phone number now. This is what I get.
Bro, I heard that brother calling. Man, you know what? When dudes start getting off into this rant about name calling, don't call these people names, what they're really saying is they have a Coon application in themselves, and they're waiting on a Coon position to open up for them. And when they take that Coon position, they don't want to be labeled too. That's all that means. These people think that they're real slick. I've caught on to that a long time ago. There are a lot of Coons in waiting out here. There are a lot of people out here who cannot wait for Charles Barkley to retire so they can slip in and get that Coon position. There's a lot of people in our society, black society, unfortunately, and this has been a problem for us ever since we were defeated in Africa. We have to admit there's some people in our community who cannot wait to assist the white supremacists. And that's been a major problem with us that we have to not be afraid and embarrassed of addressing.
I would ask them what their goal is, but I don't think there actually is a goal besides hoping that, as you said, a position is going to open up for them. And it doesn't matter how badly they get their butts kicked. They don't get, I mean, isn't there supposed to be a component in you, Tariq, that makes you embarrassed to say something like that, to talk like that in public? That if somebody said that yours, and I guess he's listened to you and figures he can become slick by half, that if somebody says, well, you're a suspected pedophile and whatnot, I would be okay with that. Isn't there supposed to be a part of you that says, whoa, hold on a second, don't say that. If you're going to defend yourself, at least don't say that one. Whatever happened to us being afraid to look stupid?
That's the thing about people who have Coon aspirations. With Coons, there's something inside of a Coon's mind that they've programmed themselves to not be embarrassed, to not be ashamed, because white approval will alleviate all of that embarrassment. Black, if we can get that white approval, we will walk around with a plunger stuck in our ass and feathers on our arms. We'll do anything for that white approval. So embarrassment among other black folks, that goes out the window as long as massa will potentially give you a pat on the head. And that's something that we have to deal with and avoid, because you were right on the money. When we have the Larry Elders and the Clarence Thomases and all that, let's not stay on that, well, these are our brothers and they're just victims, because that gives the impression that these people are not consciously working against our self-interest. If we're all victims of oppression and we're trying to alleviate the victimhood, how in the hell is embracing people who are assisting the white supremacists going to benefit us? So we got to stop hustling backwards. We got to stop using this Coon fake hotep logic, something that's been working against us for the longest, and start thinking rationally and start thinking logically, as our brother Neely Fuller says. We got to start following the logic, because we get caught up in emotion and cute little code words. We get to say something slick, and we think we're doing something by saying some little slick BS. So we got to start following logic and make things simple and not trying to be the smart, dumb nigga, as I say. There's a lot of dudes out here who like to sound like that character from the Living Color sketch from back in the early 90s, where Damon Wayans was a prisoner, and he would use all of these words out of context, like that last caller, trying to be more intelligent than what he is instead of being logical.
Oswald Bates, never will forget in Living Color for that. And the problem is, the reason it was funny is because all comedy is rooted in truth. And if it weren't for the fact that we've all known some fella who was like that, it wouldn't be funny to us. But it's funny to us because we all know somebody like that. Tariq, what do they think they're going to accomplish if they really do have their way? And they really do get you, people like you and people like me, to stop saying bedwench. They got a problem with that. Stop saying coons. They got a problem with that now. If they actually succeeded in that, what do they think is going to happen to defeat white supremacy? How do they think that's going to fight white supremacy?
Then they're going to move on to more fake Negro outrage. The name of the game is to point out fake Negro outrage, be outraged by petty nonsense, be outraged by a bunch of non sequiturs as a way to not deal with white supremacy. So getting focused on all of these names, okay, we'll stop saying Negro, we'll stop saying coon, we'll stop saying bedouins. Now what? Well, what we need to start doing is start wearing fezzes. Okay, we got a fez on. Now we need to start wearing dashikis. Y'all wearing those white man's clothes. So the name of the game is just to keep on talking in circles and never getting anything done. That's more plantation talk. Let's not get off the plantation. Let's just waste time while we're on the plantation so we can pretend that we're not being oppressed.
We got Tariq Nasheed on the line here tonight. And definitely, I want to say something while everybody is on here tonight, because for some reason, people had a problem with you for this, and I don't know why. But I guess I've learned a lot since I did 7 a.m. I've learned so much. I got so much sympathy for you, so much understanding of your situation now that I've gone through what you've been through, as far as having to put out a film and going through people making accusations. In your case, they said that you wanted to be famous and you were just doing this to get attention. Well, I'm a guy that nobody has seen. I don't put my face out there. So they said that I'm doing it because I don't want to be seen. Well, that doesn't make any damn sense, but it doesn't have to make sense, I suppose. But right now, while I've got you on the phone, I want to say this to everybody in the chat room, everybody who's listening right now. I'm going to put up a post here, and if you're in the chat room, I want all of you to go to Kickstarter, because Tariq is having the crowdfunding for Hidden Colors 4 going on right now. And for every person who contributes to Hidden Colors 4, I will put in $10 for every single one of you who contributes. Every single person who does that, I'm going to put in, I need to find this other thing over here. I'm going to put in $10 for every person, and every time it makes it to $100, I'll put in another $100. So while we're sitting here doing this, everybody who is listening to me right now, I got hundreds of you listening right now, so let's go ahead and bankrupt TBA tonight. I want you to go to Hidden Colors 4. I want you to contribute, and you don't have an excuse for it. I just sat here and watched them raise $8.7 million for a damn exploding kittens game on Kickstarter.
I saw that.
They asked for $10,000, Tariq, and hauled in $8.7 million for a damn game. This is black people's survival, and we got to limp across the finish line for $100,000.
Oh yeah. And even with raising the money for the film, you got people out here in our society still talking about, well, what you gonna use all the money for? I'm like, do people understand how expensive it is to make a film? Brother, with all the Hidden Colors films, all the money we made on Kickstarter, that's just been a drop in the bucket. I've always had to put my own money on top of that to get it completed the way I wanted to have it done. Making a movie is real expensive. especially with Hidden Colors 3, we did reenactments. We had to get locations, wardrobe. We had to pay for the rights for using those thousands of images and videos. So making these movies, it's not a cheap thing, getting releases, traveling with camera crews all over the country. So there's hundreds of thousands of dollars that goes into these movies. And then you got people up here with the fake kente cloth sitting up talking about, well, where's the money going to go? They're thinking in their limited terms, because some of these people out here, they know if they had that type of money at their disposal, they would trick it off at the drop of a hat. So they'll project their coon mentality onto you, thinking that you're going to somehow trick it off. But people like you and me, we actually get it done, and we can show you what we've gotten done. So that's going to make a lot of these people out here, the fake Hotep dudes, that's going to make them look silly, and that's going to make people question them in their rhetoric and their lack of doing anything. So now they have to come up with new ways to get the focus off them. Oh, well, Jason Black ain't showing his face. Well, Tariq is just trying to get more famous. I've been on television way before Hidden Colors. As a matter of fact, that the logic of that is ridiculous. I've been on MTV, VH1, all that with my relationship books way before Hidden Colors. Doing Hidden Colors has gotten me off TV because they don't want to talk about Hidden Colors on television. They don't let me do that. Whenever I do television interviews, they want to talk about my books. So that's totally illogical. I did this as a labor of love because nobody else was doing it. So we got to stop coming up with these excuses when we're talking about doing what we need to do to empower and to educate ourselves and our children. Because, again, the people in the dominant white society, all they need is to see somebody trying to do something, and they just back it, no questions asked. This is why card games and people doing a movie about a bumblebee in their backyard can get $5 million overnight, and we have to sit up here and argue in circles with other people in our community in order to do something that has been proven to be thorough. And also, we risk our lives doing this. Brother Jason, last week I was doing my show, and somebody pointed out that your stuff, they were discussing your stuff on Stormfront. Now, brother, you've been initiated into the crew now, because the white supremacist organizations and the Stormfront sites, they've been talking about my movies for the longest. And when the white supremacists start talking about your material in a serious manner, like, hey, this is a problem, now you know you're doing the right thing. So, brothers and sisters, we got to understand that, and you got to support the 7 a.m.s and the Hidden Colors, because we're out here doing the work that nobody else is doing. Let's just keep it 100. Ain't no more 7 a.m.s out here. Let's stop playing games. Ain't no more Hidden Colors out here. So when we bring this information, support it. Stop making excuses. And on Instagram, I put out a whole bunch of memes about some of the stuff we spend our money on. I put some satirical memes talking about the weaves that we spend money on. We spend money on shoes. We spend money on weed. Use some of that money for Hidden Colors and the 7 a.m. projects, and let's stop making excuses.
People didn't like it when you did that, and I think it's because it hit too close to home. That you're convicting them as of their sins, as the Bible says. Who are you to tell me that I shouldn't spend $100 on my weave? Who are you to tell me that I shouldn't spend $20 to fill up my Escalade? Who are you to tell me that I'm spending it wrongly? And I think it's because you're pinpricking their consciences and letting them know that this is you right here, and this is a time that you should be doing that, because we're very, very good for trying to close the barn door after the horses are out. I want to tell you all something here, okay? If you want to know why it is that you didn't hear about it as much before, but after I got done with it, I started talking about Tariq a lot more. It's because I understand what he went through. Because it cost me over $10,000 just for hotels and travel to go do 7 a.m. I mean, forget seeing people. This is just, do you want to appear in this city and lug all this gear and bring these people with you? And I did, and you saw twice as many people in Hidden Colors 2 as I had in 7 a.m. all together. You had twice as many people in that movie as I had my whole film. And that is not cheap. Yeah. That is not easy. And understand something, people. Tariq I didn't do a crowdfunding to make 7 a.m. I did a crowdfunding to promote it. I didn't do a crowdfunding to make it. Tariq did not do a crowdfunding to make Hidden Colors. He did a crowdfunding after he had filmed it. Hidden Colors 2, Hidden Colors 3. He's actually already done those. You have to pay for these things out of pocket. People don't know how much theaters cost. They don't know how much the logistics for all this stuff takes forever here. Easily. When I got done with 7 a.m., I spent somewhere around $60,000. But Tariq easily spent twice that. Easily. And what we're saying is that we can put these investments into the ether like that, but if people do not appreciate it, because understand, BET is not doing this. BET has been around for 30 years and never did a documentary like Hidden Colors. Never done it. Mm-hmm. But we lined up for the BET Awards. And we don't appreciate the folk who are sitting right here next to us. And the reason why I wanted you to talk about this, Tariq, is because I wanted to let people know that I support what you're doing. And Tariq actually supports 7 a.m. He didn't put up any banners about it. I just woke up one day and next thing I know, he's executive producing it. And he didn't say anything. He didn't announce it. He didn't do anything. That's what let me know that, you know what, maybe this dude is really serious about this. So when I get people, and I'm just going to be honest, I get people right here at the Black Channel. And I figure they should hear it from you yourself. I get them here, and they got a problem. They've got a problem with the fact that, well, I understand, Jason, what you're saying, but ain't he Mr. Matt Lessons? And I've explained it to them from my perspective. But since you're here and you're more than capable of explaining yourself, against that particular criticism, what do you say?
I say to this. Why are people letting the Mac Lessons dude do what people who are supposed to be conscious were supposed to be doing years ago?
Ow.
That's my answer to that. If I'm the Mac Lessons guy, I'm a lowlife. And I get all types of rumors about me. According to people out here on the internet, I'm the world's biggest criminal kingpin, hustler, gangster on the planet, according to them. I'm a lowlife, according to them, my distractors. But if I'm that, what does that say about the dude with the kente cloth walking around with the fez, the bow tie, and the bean pie, and the Egyptian musk oil, talking all of this talk about what we need to do, and none of them are doing it? So why did the Mackin guy have to do this? Why did the Mackin guy have to get all of these legends and put them together? Dick Gregory, the greatest activist. Nas, the greatest rapper. KRS-One, another one of the greatest rappers. Paul Mooney, the greatest comedian. Why did I have to do that? That says a lot about the so-called conscious community if I had to do it, and I'm the despicable Mackin guy. Because my thing is this. I don't do all the whole titles thing. I'm not trying to be anybody's leader. I just want us to get things done. I think we should just have a code of conduct. I'm not the morality police. I'm all about economic empowerment. So I tell people, don't try to be perfect, because I ain't no perfect person. If you smoke crack, know your history and empower yourself. You like to twerk, all right, twerk your ass off, but know your history, know about empowerment. Don't let white supremacy use you as a tool. You are a garbage man, understand your history, know how to deal with white supremacy, know how to empower yourself economically. Whatever you do, empower yourself economically. I'm not the morality police, so I'm not nobody's leader. I tell people all the time, because Hidden Colors has been so phenomenal, it's made such an impact. People think that I walk in the room like Martin Luther King flex, and I'm not. I'm not nobody's leader. I'm not trying to have you follow me or nothing. I've said explicitly, I don't want no followers. I want us to have a code of conduct. You be the damn leader. Let's just do what we need to do, because I'm not on that ego thing. I don't have to be out there in the forefront all the time. I'm trying to be a team player. That's why with the Hidden Colors series, I made sure that I got people who I thought were better than me to be in my films. Because if they weren't more thorough than me, I didn't want to deal with them. I wanted to be on a team with all stars, and my ego had no problem letting that happen. A lot of times when black folks start getting things popping, we want to be worshipped and we want to be praised and all that. That's why, like you said, I donated money to your project. I didn't even make a peep about it. I don't have to be out there with Spike Lee. I donated to his project, became executive producer. A lot of black projects out here I executive produce that people don't know about. A lot of people in the conscious community, a lot of our older elders who are in certain situations, I paid for people's rent. I paid people's mortgages. I didn't help pay for people's medical bills. I pay for people's funerals. Dude, I do a lot of stuff behind the scenes because I don't have to be seen. I don't have to have the ego gratification. I just want stuff done. And if the Mac can do that, well, damn it, I'll be the Mac then.
And like I say, I've judged people by what they do, not by what they say. We got a lot of folk out here talk a good game and they don't do anything. So if it seems like I'm like that about Tariq, it's because I see what he does. And if I saw somebody out there doing better, doing more, maybe I feel differently about it. But I'm taking a look at the biggest critics of it. And then the first thing I say is, okay, and what are you doing besides criticizing them? What are you doing other than that? Okay, he's no good. I got that. And your contribution is, well, I'm here to expose them. Okay, I got that. What are we building on top of this? You know, brother, if we're going to be doing this, people are, I guess the criticism is not going to go away that we're being too harsh. That we should somehow be a lot softer in our approach. Why shouldn't we be softer in our approach?
Because right now we don't need to leave it up to speculation. We're in a situation of, it's almost like drug addicts. And when you deal with a drug addict, they tell you, don't be soft on a drug addict. If you see somebody who's on drugs, you can't play games with them like, hey, man, we're going to pray your drugs away. Oh, you have a problem, we're going to work with you, we're going to hug that drug problem away. You know, you got to say, hey, look, man, you're a crackhead. We're going to put you in this clinic. We got to get you off the pipe. You're destroying your life. You got to be hardcore on a drug addict. We've been subjected to systematic white supremacy. That's traumatic. And we have to start dealing with it like a traumatic experience. We got to stop using these little soft code words like, okay, well, there's racism that exists, but things are getting better now. It's not getting better now. The community is getting worse. We don't have anything. We don't own anything, and we have to just be honest about our situation. And I'm not here to sit up and sell people hotep dreams. I'm not trying to use religion, because that's another thing. We get caught up in religion and replacing different religions for each other, because people try to criticize Christianity, then they start preaching Islam. Then they criticize Islam, then they start talking about they're Hebrew Israelites. So we just keep replacing one religion with another, and we're still playing games. So we got to just be very honest and be very brash and be very blunt with people, so we can stop playing these games and say, hey, this is what we need to do. This is where we are, and this is how we build from where we are.
What do you say to the people who say that it's not that serious? That you're just running a hustle, I'm just running one. It's not really that bad. Yeah, there's some off-color stuff has happened. Trayvon got killed. That's unfortunate. But it's not really that bad. It's not as bad as you're trying to post it. You're just trying to make it seem that way so you can sell DVDs. I'm trying to make it seem that way so I can sell DVDs. What do you say to those people?
Those are people that have been psychologically defeated. These are people who are totally afraid of white supremacy. And I talk about this a lot. When you look at the slave narratives, if you go to the Library of Congress, they have a lot of the slave narratives that were taken and documented around the 1920s and the 1930s from black people who were former slaves. And you can have two brothers and sisters who were slaves, and they would have two different narratives. You have one person saying, hey, slavery was the worst thing that ever happened. It was so traumatic. Thank God it was over so I can do for myself and have my freedom. And then you had other slave narratives that were directly opposite of that. There are people who said slavery was the good old days. I don't know why they stopped slavery. Massa was so good to me. Massa was great. I don't know why I got to live out here on my own. It became so bad. Massa was taking care of me. I had it made. So two people with the same experience, psychologically, they looked at it totally different, because the person who has made a deal with themselves psychologically, they become accustomed to being captive. And that's a disease within itself. And we have a lot of black people today who are accustomed to being captive. So when you talk about freedom to them, as on the plantation, they've already made up in their mind, this is cool enough for them. This is good enough for me. As a matter of fact, not only is it good enough, I got it made because Massa takes care of me. They had to rationalize it in their mind that way. And you have black people like that now. White supremacy ain't that bad. Well, Trayvon got shot and Mike Brown got shot, but they were thugs anyway. They shouldn't have been doing what they were doing. That's them trying to psychologically deal with the fact that they're subjugated, they're subjected, and they don't want to admit to that, because that means that you got to get up and do something. And that's something that a lot of people in the community don't want to do, if we're going to be honest.
I had somebody who literally told me, when I told them about Trayvon Martin, I had a black person literally tell me that, well, he shouldn't have been out that late at night. And I was like, it was only like 7 in the evening. Well, what was he out? What was he doing out at night? I mean, literally. And then when I questioned them more, they were like, you shouldn't be out at night anyway. They literally said that. So who needs Darren Wilson when you got black folk telling you that you should not be doing that? And once again, everybody, if you have not been to Kickstarter for Hidden Colors 4, you definitely want to go there and contribute, because it's necessary to do this, because, Tariq, we don't have anybody else out here representing the streets. We don't have that. I mean, I don't care whether you like them or not, because we got a lot of folks like that. Nicki Minaj is not talking against white supremacy. She sat up here and said that she ain't going to do it and said that Kanye shouldn't do it. They sat up here and said, we're not going to talk. Beyonce is not going to talk against white supremacy. Halle Berry didn't have a problem with white supremacy until she got called nigga. They're not representing the streets. They're not representing the people. So for those of us who are doing that, explain to everybody why it's important that even with their biases here, that they should support it, even if they feel like the messenger is imperfect. Explain to them why it's important for them to support this.
It's very important because this is for all of us. This is for the whole community, and this is a code of conduct that we need to have among each other. This is all about a code. See, in white society, they don't agree with everything they do in white society. They're white people who hate each other, but at the end of the day, when it's code time, they jump on code. You don't have to say it twice. They'll put their differences aside at the drop of a hat when it comes time to them to get on code. We're the only ones who don't get that ideology. And again, when people start using things, well, he wrote the Mackin book. Well, even when you look at what I've written, it's not negative. Because the Mackin and in my books, that's really a metaphor for manhood. When people start making up lies about what my book is about, my book is just about dating and relationships and how to talk to people and how to approach people. Nothing in my book is teaching anybody to demoralize or mistreat or disrespect anybody, if you're going to be very honest. And even if you listen to the Mac Lessons radio show, people pretend to have a problem with the word Mac. But again, the word Mac was just a metaphor. So you got to understand, a lot of people have this fake outrage. They'll latch on to certain words because what they're really upset with is what I said about a feminist, or they're really upset that I didn't clown a coon. So they have to create a smoke screen to latch on to get off the fact that I'm saying something that they don't like, and they got to do the ad hominem thing. So we got to stop getting on all of this petty bickering and get a code of conduct, and we don't have to agree with each other, but just agree on the code, and that's something that we need to do.
I got to ask you this because I don't get to talk to you very often, but I've got to ask you this, and this question is actually not what, this is more like in the Mac Lessons vein of things. Tariq, yes, how important is it for, as black men, I've gotten a lot of criticism lately. Well, not a lot of criticism. It's actually only been a few people, but they're very vocal few people who are actually in my camp. They've been with me for years, but I found out they were saying things on the sneak, and they were saying things behind closed doors. At least they thought they were closed. They didn't like the fact that I said that as black men, my position is that as a black man, if your financial situation isn't together, you shouldn't even be thinking about women until you get knock the dust off of you, because you cannot lead women from an inferior economic position. You can get sex, but you can't lead. A woman is not going to follow a man who she sees as her socioeconomic inferior. And these guys were saying stuff like, man, if I'm with a female, the best she can ever hope for is to go to Taco Bell. The best that she's going to get from me is some sex. I won't use their terms, but that's all she can expect from me. But basically, that a woman should give them obeisance for basically his presence as a male, not as a man, but as a male. So why don't we go ahead and get this straight from you directly here and everything. Can a man expect to lead a woman without his socioeconomic game in order?
You can't. You can't do that, because when a woman is in a position of economic superiority over a man, subconsciously she won't respect him. And I've discussed this in my book, The Mac Within. Even in my first book, The Art of Macking, I talked about how important it is for men to get their money up, because a lot of dudes hit me up and they email me and they mail me letters saying that, hey, I ain't got no house, I ain't got no car, I ain't got no money. How do I get women? And I discussed that in my first book. And I said, hey, you got to get all of these things that are making you insecure, because the name of the game is to make yourself fly. So when you step into the arena, you have the tangibles and you have the power and you have the influence that women will want to follow. So if you peel back the word Mac, it's all about manhood. Again, the word Mac was just a popular term at the time, and the hip-hop crowd could understand that. So when people read my books, just replace the word Mac with manhood, and a lot of the stuff will make sense. But trying to go out here and scam sex, that's not what I ever talk about. And a lot of dudes who ain't got nothing, who are broke, they come up with ways to try to scam sex out of women. And I've been vehemently against any type of scamming, any kind of lying. And I've talked about that in all of my books. Lying is no part of the game. There's no part in the game where you should be lying, because you got to have integrity with whatever you do if you're trying to be a quote-unquote real player about yours. So a lot of dudes get the game messed up, and that's why I wanted to use street terms in my books, because a lot of dudes, when they start getting into situations with women, they start using terms like I'm a player, I'm a mag, but they don't know what the terms mean, and they do all this little dirty, conniving stuff and trying to act like they're using some type of game, and that ain't got nothing to do with the game. Lying to a woman, trying to lie to her about sex or lie to her about your situation, that ain't Macish at all. So I wanted to give dudes a real understanding of what the game is and how to have integrity with whatever you do.
You asked me this before, and I want to ask you now. Why is it that we as black men, we got folk out here literally pointing guns at our heads, but yet we are obsessed with sex and shoes? What is up with that?
Well, that's that plantation mentality. We were psychologically bred that way. On plantations, we were used as bucks. They used us as bucks. They used us to breed for the women and not have any responsibility for our seed, our offspring. And that was our job. You know, in the movie, there was a documentary that came on BET called The Book of Negroes. And there was a scene in there that a lot of people probably missed, but it was a very heavy scene. There was a black man, black woman enslaved. They had a baby, and the white master sold the kid. And later on in the film, the white slave master, years later, ran into the black woman that he sold her baby. And he kind of liked the woman. He was kind of messing with her low-key, and he was trying to get with her still. And she had got her freedom, and she's like, look, I don't want to be your slave no more. I got a husband now. And the white slave owner said this. The white slave owner said, that ain't no husband. That ain't no man. Because if anybody were to sell my kid, I would search the earth and kill him. The white person said this. So a lot of black folks miss these messages that the white supremacists will slip in there. We sit up here and allow them to put us in subjugated positions, and we accept it, and we sit up here and act like we're doing something just because somebody's trying to give us some sex, and we base that around our whole lives, just getting sex instead of getting power. And that's something that has to be bred out of our system. And people mistakenly try to make it seem like that's what my old Mac Lesson show was about. And if you listen to my old Mac Lessons radio show, I never really do too many shows about getting sex. Most of my shows were about just having a tight mouthpiece and using that to gain power and to gain access into certain situations so that you can build wealth and resources for yourself.
Most people see what they want to see because they're looking for a way to bend it where they want it to go here. We're talking to Tariq Nasheed right now. I'm not going to hold you here too much longer. You got a new kid here and everything, and you got responsibilities. Yes, but I want to ask you, what drives you? You could do anything you want to do, basically. You could go anywhere you want to go, and yet at this point in your life, you've chosen to go in this direction. What is it that's driving you to do this and to keep coming back despite, the attacks and the difficulties and the adversity? What drives you?
Man, what drove me, man, was the young people out here. Because, again, when people start saying stuff, well, you're doing the Hidden Colors of the Fame, brother, I had about 3 offers to do my own television show when I started doing the Hidden Colors films. And I turned a lot of that down because I was looking at how movies were coming out portraying us. At the time, which was around 2011, you had Precious, you had The Blind Side, you had all of these movies where us in this inferior position, we're just moping around getting saved. And when I saw these movies starting to get accolades, I said, it's going to get worse. So I can sit up here and just kind of get me a little something off the table, but it's going to start looking bad for us later on down the line. So I started thinking in the future, what's going to happen? I knew something was going to happen as far as us being attacked like this by the white supremacists. So I wanted to go ahead and get on the chessboard and start making moves before that happened. And what motivates me to do this, man, I have children. And I care about my children and other people's children because I was a kid and I wanted answers and nobody could give me answers. And I put myself in the mindset of children now who wanted answers, who want answers. And we as adults, we got to be responsible enough to give them answers and give them game and give them the knowledge they need to deal with systematic white supremacy instead of letting white supremacy bite them in the ass and then tell them to pray it off. We can't do that no more. Those days are over. I have 2 boys now, so I'm going to let them know what the deal is, and I'm going to go out of my way to create a situation where they're going to be safe, because we live in a society where it is legal for white supremacists to kill black boys. So damn if I'm going to sit up here and sleep and act like everything is cool and start tricking my money off at the strip club. Every day I'm going to work to make sure that my sons and other sons and daughters are out there are safe from systematic white supremacy as much as I can do.
As you and I are both, I'm 38 now, and you're a little bit older than I am, and we have to remind ourselves that, by the way, it's been over 20 years since Rodney King, and a lot of these young black folk, they didn't see LA on fire. They didn't see that. That was the first time that kind of thing had been caught on video like that, but that was happening all the time. That was just the first time it had been caught. And a lot of these young folk, they're seeing, Eric Garner. That's their first time seeing this. We got this 20-year gap because the ball has been dropped, because the older generation did not make sure that this stayed a steady drumbeat. Jewish people make sure they remind you that of where they've been and who did it to them. They make movies all the time. They keep coming back and keep referencing it because they never let you forget that. Before you go here, Tariq, there's something I want to say publicly with you and everybody else here. I had the idea to do 7 a.m. about 5 years ago. And then after that, you got started on Hidden Colors. So while I was in the planning stages, you actually picked up your cameras and started moving, which beats planning any day of the year. And you had actually put out, I'm not afraid to tell people this, I had seen Hidden Colors 2 3 months before I left to go do 7 a.m. And that's when I saw Dr. Claude Anderson. I was like, are you serious? Was he really in Hidden Colors 2? Are you kidding me? And so I made it up in my mind that, I didn't have the budget that you had, but that I would try. I'm not going to lie to you. It was a bit of friendly competition as far as that's concerned. I was like, I don't have the budget that he has, but I'm going to do the best kind of project that I can. So at least people will, at least to try to see if I can one up it just a little bit in my own way. And then I'm like, maybe after I'm done with this, he'll come back and one up me, in his own way. And that kind of friendly competition, I think, it would help us all as a people, especially in the service of black empowerment, because we compete so much on stuff that doesn't matter. And if 7 a.m. has anything, I think the fact that you helped to open up this idea that any of us who just decide that, hey, you know what, I want to do it, but I want to do it right. And I'll go to crowdfunding because I want to do it right. I think that, when history looks back on this, it's going to take a look at Hidden Colors. It's going to take a look at your efforts. It's going to take a look at the fact that you didn't just do your first one and try to do more. I mean, people don't understand movie making techniques. You don't understand how Tariq's technique has gotten more refined and more sophisticated since the first one. Yes, I mean, you've gotten to the point now in Hidden Colors 3, you're actually trying different color schemes and different color gradings and different camera settings on that red. I could see that the difference from Hidden Colors 2, which has a more cinematic look, to Hidden Colors 3, which has more of a television documentary type look to it. I mean, Tariq has gotten that sophisticated with it, and I'm saying this is what we're supposed to be doing. This is how we're supposed to be doing it. This is operating at the top of our game. So that was the kind of thing that inspired me to make sure that, hey, if I'm going to go do 7 a.m., I got to do this right, because this fella has set the tone. And everything else after this is going to be judged by that tone. So if nothing else, you made an impression on me. You made me want to step my game up for 7 a.m. And I was already going to go in that direction, but I needed to make sure. And that actually caused part of the delay in releasing it. I wanted to make sure it looked a certain way and was done right, because you've set the tone. And I hope that anybody who wants to do a documentary or wants to do a movie or whatever, takes a look at what you've done and lives up to the standard that you've set. I'll let you have the last word.
Yes, sir, and that's why I supported your film, because we need that. That's how a lot of the major movie studios started. There were a bunch of Jewish immigrants that came out here to Hollywood because they were getting away from Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison had a monopoly on the film game in the early 1900s. So a lot of Jewish immigrants came out here. They worked with each other. There was a friendly competition. They opened up Nickelodeons and movie houses out here and studios out here, and they worked with each other, and they built up a community and a system, and that system is still strong today. So we as black folks, we got to get over our little petty differences. When we see another black person doing something, we got to get rid of that hater gene. I go out of my way to help brothers and sisters when I see that they're doing something that's tangible and not just talking, because certain people will say, well, Jason Black don't show his face. Well, damn it, Jason Black is doing the damn work. I would rather see somebody not show their face and do work than to see your damn face all the time and you ain't doing nothing. So this brother's doing work, and I'm going to support anybody who's doing work. So you keep up the good work, brother. Don't let those people distract you from anything. Keep on doing that, and brothers and sisters listening, keep supporting the 7 a.m.s and the hidden colors out there. And you put together projects, brothers and sisters listening, so we can support you. But just do something tangible and just stop talking and let's start doing.
Brothers and sisters, Tariq Nasheed, Hidden Colors 4. I know it's kind of early, but are you going to be planning on dropping it this year or next year?
Probably early 2016.
Okay.
Possibly early 2016. So that's what we're looking at right now.
Because people do not know how long these workflows are on it. You know, it's not like making a YouTube video. If making it, for all the people who want us to give our documentaries away for free, and that has just chapped my ass. I had somebody in my inbox here last week talking about, brother, they hit me with the children. They hit me with the kids. We got the kids out here in L.A., and I want the kids to see this. I wrote them back and said, why don't we show the kids black economics? Why don't we show them how that works? Because it's not like I'm charging a fortune for it or whatever. I even give the option. I'll tell you, I even give the option to people that if they want to hold a screening, that if they give me a percentage of it, give me a percentage of those ticket sales, and you can host a screening. And don't you know, I've had people still say they want me to do it for free. I had a couple of them want me to rent the theater. They want me emails so I can rent a theater. I'm like, are you serious? Do you think they're giving them away? Why do you think you're asking me? Documentaries are not free and they're not cheap, but they want us to donate it like that.
And the people who are asking you to do it for free, they'll be the first ones selling bootleg copies at those screenings too. Don't let them fool you. They talk all that, hey, brother, Hotep, Egyptian Musk, Kundalini, Triple Darkness. Brother, we need it. The kids ain't got no food. And they will have 1,000 bootlegs of 7 a.m. sitting up there selling them for $20 a pop. Don't let them trick you. I tell them off the rip. It's economics. You got to pay for the screening, and this is a circular thing. We're going to keep the money flowing in a circular manner. So let's stop playing and let's start doing business.
I've gotten sob stories from, if I said this organization, every single one of you knows them. They've been around for a very, very long time. I guess that should point out who it is. I've gotten the sob story from them.
Wait. The first letter start with an N?
To start with an N and almost end with a Coon? Yeah. I've gotten the sob story from them. Now you know you're in trouble when you get in the sob story from them about, well, it's an educational effort. Are you serious? Is this for real? And then you wonder why it is that Darren Wilson wasn't afraid, and George Zimmerman wasn't afraid, and Daniel Pantaleo wasn't afraid. They're not afraid because their people understand that if you really believe in something that you put your money into, you show me your banking statement where you spend your money, and I will show you what you really believe in.
Absolutely. Brother, you got white cops out here. That cop, I think in Oklahoma, who raped those black women out there, he got donations. The white supremacists will support anybody in their community who they think will help them uphold the system of white supremacy. If you have white killers and rapists getting money and donations from people in their community, black people should be ashamed to not donate to projects and contribute to projects like Hidden Colors and 7 a.m., projects that's going to empower you.
We got right-wing white racists like Kevin Sorbo, and he can sit up here and get hundreds of thousands of dollars to make his movie. And black folk can see us working on Hidden Colors 4, not 1. At this point right now, you know what you're getting. There's no question about
Absolutely.
it. And we're just hesitant and reluctant about it. And a lot of folk don't like it when I say it, but I'm just going to tell the truth. It's mathematics, and there is no way in the world that everybody in black society is going to make it, with so many people with this dependent mindset that they can't even be bothered to stand up for their own salvation. They don't like it, but you know it's going to be a thinning of the herd. To be totally honest with you, Daniel Pantaleo and crew have already begun it because they started by targeting poor black people. And if we can get away with it there, next we move up to middle class guys like Tariq and Jason, and from there Michael Jordan and the rest of you. What they don't understand, Tariq, is that in the 18th century, we saw white supremacy at its most vicious. We saw it at its most vociferous. We saw it at its most bloodthirsty, that it was willing to go to war around the world to maintain it. And it didn't start tapering off until after 1947 as far as worldwide conquest. But as their numbers decrease, you're going to see white supremacy increase. You're going to see the incidence of it asserting itself increase. I've had people for years say that, well, their numbers are going down. That's not a good thing. That's not a great thing. Remember what they were doing to people when they were 50% of the population. You go back to the 1800s when they were 50% of the population. Take a look at what they were doing then. And take a look at how they became 90% and they were so confident we don't have to be vicious anymore. Now their numbers are down to 63%. Back to the viciousness.
Exactly. And this is why we keep having to make these films over and over to get people in there, to get through their heads the seriousness and the severity of what's happening. And you got some people who will say, well, come on, man, Tariq, Hidden Colors 4, why are you making so many Hidden Colors? And these same people will line up around the corner to see Spider-Man 4, Transformer 5, Star Wars 6, Friday the 13th, Part 20. You have no problem lining up to see every other sequel, but when it comes to empowering yourself, it's like, okay, damn, how many are you going to make? Now you want to complain. It doesn't work like that. This is what we need to keep going. We need to keep the momentum going because we need to keep telling our story and different strategies of our story on what we need to do to empower ourselves.
Brothers and sisters, it's HiddenColorsFilm.com. You ought to know the place by heart by now. Hidden Colors 4 is underway, and that's a great thing because we need a steady drumbeat of this. If you haven't been to Kickstarter, literally, when you go on Google now and type in Hidden Colors, you only bring up Tariq Nasheed. Type in Hidden Colors 4, it'll take you to Kickstarter. If you haven't been there, and I want to hear from you all out there because I want to show you that this is not something that we talk about. This is a great effort. 7 a.m. this year, Hidden Colors 3 last year, 7 a.m. this year, Hidden Colors 3 next year. This steady drum beat is what we need more than anything else to keep the fires burning on this because we got a 150-year head start that they got ahead of us. And at this point right now, they're not trying to push us into poverty. They're trying to push us into extinction. Brother, I want to thank you very much for joining us tonight. I want to thank you very much for your support, not just on 7 a.m., but for something like this because these things take a toll on you. They take a toll on your family. They take a toll on you mentally and emotionally. And to try to keep standing and stay strong in the face of this, you keep getting hit with stupid questions. You keep getting people who have no credibility questioning your credentials. You're working on your fourth film and still hearing insanely stupid stuff. Like Marvin Gaye said, it make you want to throw up your hands. But I want to let you know that, if nobody else understands what you've been through, I understand what you've been through, and I support it wholeheartedly because this is not easy. It's not simple. If it were, everybody would be doing it. And I want to thank you for just, keeping up, doing what you're doing despite the rest of what's going on. And even if you don't feel like you've had an effect sometimes, I'm letting you know that the influence of what you did, if people see 7 a.m., they're going to see some of that effort in there.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that, brother. And the thing is, brother, when we do what we do, Jason, when we do the 7 a.m.s and the Hidden Colors, what that does, that sends a message. That sends a message that other people are going to be influenced by us going out there taking the initiative and getting out from under white mommy and white daddy. And that's coon repellent. That makes coons tremble in their boots because now if everybody's going to start saying, hey, we don't need white mommy and white daddy, the coons are going to be the first ones to jump up and say, hey, wait a minute, you messing it up for me. You're messing up my cooning. You messing it up between me and my white mommy and daddy, so I can't have that. So the coons are going to be the first ones to sabotage it, followed by the white supremacists. So we just have to understand that dynamic and keep on doing what we're doing. If we are thorough, we got a system of economic empowerment. We get our media out there like we're supposed to get it out there. We make it successful. We're going to make it white supremacy proof. We're going to make it coon proof. And that's the ultimate goal for what I'm doing.
Well, like I say, at some point we might see everybody. I hope that all the young filmmakers and all the people doing work right now, because we're never going to have the Issa Rays. I hope that, at some point, hopefully we'll all start getting together. Because I think that, you're showing your hustle, I'm showing mine. And hopefully we can all start working together on some things in the future as we go along here. I want to thank you again, Tariq, for showing up here tonight. Definitely everybody contribute. Hidden Colors 4 on Kickstarter. You definitely need to be there. Thank you very much for joining us, brother.
Thank you, brother. Peace.
That is, of course, Tariq Nasheed, Hidden Colors 4, going to be detonating next year. And as I say, I mean, I if it seems like I talk about them a bit more since I came back from 7 a.m., it's because I've been there. I understand what it's like to pay thousands of dollars to be in a city for one day. I know what it's like to pay thousands of dollars to fly into one city for one day. I paid 20, I want to say 25, but it might have been $2,200 to go into right outside of Washington, not even for a day. I wasn't even there for a day. I did not go, when I went to go see Dr. Anderson at his fishery in Hurlock, Maryland, I wasn't there for 5 hours. I wasn't there for 5 hours. But you see, I have to be there when he is available. And so having accommodations and rental cars and equipment for my people, I got to pay for all of that. Even though I can only see Dr. Anderson for a few hours, I got to pay so that we have accommodations so we can go and see him for those few hours.
90 seconds.
I got to go pay for that. Nobody is going to give me money to go and do that. I've got to pay for that. So for me, for Dr. Anderson, it was only a few hours. They're only going to see me for a few hours. For me, that was my day. My whole day was to be in your city so that when you came to the fishery, I could interview you there. So that was just part of your day, but I have to arrange airline tickets, hotels, rental cars, accommodations for my people, accommodations for the equipment, food, and everything else. I got to accommodate that visit to the tune of thousands of dollars. I have to accommodate that. With people sitting up here acting as if it was free. It was not free, and it's not easy. You take a look at Hidden Colors 2. I mean, Tariq talked to what, 10 people? Eight or 10 people in Hidden Colors 2? I mean, you count up the time frame in all those cities, and you gotta fly your crew out there and go meet these people. These things are not cheap, and they're not easy, and I'm not sitting up here belaboring that point because I'm trying to sound impressive. I'm saying it because I'm saying this takes work. It takes effort. It's not making a YouTube video. If all Tariq was doing was taking out a cell phone camera and recording people, then he could put out a documentary every 30 days, and it wouldn't be a documentary, and it wouldn't be very well done either, by the way. It wouldn't be much to look at, and it wouldn't be much to see. But these things are not simple. And I want you to appreciate the fact that this takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. You don't have a huge corporation behind you. You don't have tons of people behind you. You got to work all this out on your own, work out all the logistics on your own, and then come back and edit film and edit footage, and then got people saying, can't you give it away for free? So you're going to spend $60,000 and then spend another $100,000 in post-production and distribution. That's not people who are trying to have a unified people. When you go to people who have spent their money on something and tell them to give you something for free, that's not a unified people that you're advocating. You're advocating exploitation. You're advocating exploitation. And I tell you, I got newfound respect for what he did the first time around, because 7 a.m. was my first film. He's working on number 4. 7 a.m. was number 1 for me. It was number 1. And it was very expensive, relatively speaking. Now, some coonish individuals would have taken that kind of money and gone off and bought a car. And he was right. The reason that the average black male, average black person, but particularly black males, I'm going to give you the left hook right now. The reason that the average black male could not make a 7 a.m. or Hidden Colors is because if people donated $100,000 to the average black male, he would then try to say, well, I can take about 50 of this, hit the strip club, go finally finally go and bag that dirty high yellow hood rat I've been trying to chase now for the last 10 years. I can finally get her. I can finally do that. I can get the brand new J's. I'm going to go stand in line at Foot Locker and get the brand new ones. Matter of fact, now I'm going to get 2 pairs. I'm going to get 2 pairs. I'm gonna go to some football games and some basketball games. Cause I live in Dallas, but I've never been to go see the Mavericks. I live in LA, but I'm never going to go see the Lakers. Man, I can do it up. I can do it up now. And guess what? The film would never get done. It would never get done. It would never get done because of the lack of focus. And when you've got people who are going to be focused and are actually going to do it right, go check the people who've talked about 7 a.m. They'll tell you what they thought of it. It wasn't a YouTube video. It didn't look weak. It wasn't all bad and all out of focus. It was the type of professional quality that you would expect from Hollywood. And that's why we need to support these kind of things, because it's harder for us to do something like this. It's easy for a Tyler Perry. It's hard for a Tariq Nasheed or a Jason Black. A Tyler Perry who can get a cash advance from Lionsgate. The rest of us are out here having to do this on our own. We're having to find the money and get it on our own. We're having to get it on our own. So I hope more people will respect that. Okay, we got some people who've been waiting on the line here for a little bit. Thank you very much for your patience. Let me get caller from 240. You're on live with the Black Channel.
Black first, Jason Black. This is Baron from District Heights, Maryland. And, I was just listening, but at the same time, I do have things to say. I just want to say that y'all are legalizing black manhood. I got this saying that black manhood is black manhood is illegal in America. Whenever positive black male assertiveness, it causes nervousness, it causes all these allergic reactions, the fake nigga outrage. All those are things that just allergic reactions to black men asserting themselves in a positive way. And you and King Flex, doing what you're doing is legalizing black manhood. It's making people have to, that it's not going nowhere. It's going to stay. And I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for joining us here, brother. I'll put you back on hold over here. Thank you very much for checking in with us here tonight. Definitely, we're making black legal. We are making empowerment legal, contrary to what some callers might be telling themselves. Caller from 281, you're on live with the Black Channel.
Brother, I just want to say what you all doing is powerful. I want to say I already paid for my pre-order for 7 a.m. I was not able to actually catch the viewing in Dallas. So if you ever decide to come to Houston, even though I've made the pre-order for it, I'm still going to go out and support the movie at the theater as well. And what Tariq is doing is also powerful as well. So you brothers keep up that good work. You do have brothers and sisters out there that are supporting you all. And with that last caller that called in, no matter what you were saying to that brother, he's still lost, looking at it in a way that he's going to try to in other words, try to try to rationalize it. And the reason I say that because I actually worked with this brother from Detroit. And around the time that Trayvon was murdered, I was telling him, well, brother, this is global white supremacy that's going on. Well, that's not the reason. So you have to look at and so they try to come up with all these excuses for white supremacy, which white folks don't have to say anything. They just step back. And like you say, let the coons in the bedroom speak for them.
Well, they make excuses for it because they think that's going to get them a pass out of doing something. Ultimately, the upshot, when the people deny white supremacy, ultimately the upshot of what they're saying is, I'm not going to do anything about it. Don't tell me about Eric Garner being strangled, because I ain't gonna do nothing. And here's the reason why you should not think less of me, but I'm still gonna do nothing. See, it's okay what I'm doing. The upshot of what they're saying is I don't have to do anything. I'm not gonna stand up to it. I'm not gonna fight it. I don't want y'all to criticize me. And here's the old bull jive excuse I'm gonna hand out to hopefully get away from your criticism.
Essentially, like your brothers were saying earlier, they're putting their bid in. And so I just wanted to say once again, keep up the good work. The brothers are doing a great job, and I will continue to support you guys.
Thank you very much for joining us here, brother. We're glad to have you here tonight. We're going to see about just taking one more phone call here. Let me grab a caller from 862. You're on live with the Black Channel.
Hello.
Hi, you're on live.
Yes, this is my first time calling. I'm not quite familiar with your program. However, I found it very interesting because I just learned about you less than an hour ago. I don't understand what you're actually doing. I'm assuming you're making a film or you got some special program that comes online. I don't have a computer system at this time.
Ooh, how are you listening to us?
Hello?
How are you listening to us if you don't have a computer?
Because I have your phone number, and that's how I got connected to you.
Aha. Somebody gave you the phone number.
Yeah.
That's a good friend you have.
Yeah, I appreciate it. But I wanted to ask you something, because I happen to be in my late 70s, and I've seen a lot of ugliness in this country. Of all the things that you and that other man spoke about, I'm assuming that man that made the movie, what the heck, it's something 4. I heard him say something about movie something 4.
Hidden Colors.
A lot of money.
It's Hidden Colors 4.
Yes, Hidden Colors.
Yes.
Yeah. You all were talking about blacks who consider them, or at least they act like you said, coons and what have you. Don't you understand that those blacks are blacks who fear a great deal of white folks? And that goes all the way back to slavery, because I also have it in my family. However, I happen not to think that way because I marched with King and I put my life on the line on many other occasions. But don't you think that fear is one of the greatest problems that many blacks have today, that holds them back and holds us all back as a people?
Well, yes, I mean, fear is a problem. However, sister, there is a difference between fear and cowardice. You see,
so
fear
do you
is...
believe that majority of those would be cowards? Or
oh, yes, absolutely.
True fear?
Yeah, because
What
fear
makes you
is...
think the majority are cowards?
Fear is a reaction to something. Fear is something that's evolved over the last 160,000 years. 160 million, if you want to be precise about it. But fear is something that is natural, okay? Fear is understandable and it's natural. Cowardice is a choice. Cowardice is where you have... Cowardice is a choice. Cowardice is where you have... Well, hold on a second now. I'm the guy with the microphone. Let me finish. Ma'am, let me finish. You can't respond to half a sentence. You have to respond to everything. Cowardice is a choice. And the reason that cowardice...
Let me speak when you finish?
Yeah, I'll let you speak when I'm finished. I got time.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
But there's a reason why I'm the host, though. Cowardice is a choice. And the reason that cowardice is a choice is because cowardice requires culture. Cowardice is a practice, not a reaction. When you tell yourself that I will never fight under any circumstances, that is when you've made a choice to practice in your daily life being a coward. That's not fear anymore. That's just, I'm a coward. It is my philosophy. It's my ideology that when I get hit, I don't hit back. When people hurt my children, I don't defend them. When people kill my children, I don't avenge them. It is my philosophy, my position, that when other people strike against me, I run. That's not fear. That's cowardice. And cowardice is a choice.
But then what do you consider fear?
Fear is a reaction.
Some of that I agree with you. Some of that I concur with you, but I want to know, what do you consider fear in a human being.
Yeah,
at this time.
already explained
at
that.
This time right now.
Already explained that. Fear is a reaction. Fear is a biological instinct. Fear is a reaction. But fear is
So
also
are you
temporary.
Saying, let me see if I understand you, sir. Are you saying that if someone walks up to me at this point and hits me, I will react to them because I feared them coming at me and hurting me even worse than just hitting me?
Yeah, because
Is
fear
that what you're saying?
fear can make you
I'm asking so I can
I'm
understand.
answering you. If you'll stop for a moment, I'm answering you. Fear makes you do two things: fight or flight. Now, just because you're
Say that
afraid,
again?
fear, as all biologists have and psychologists will tell you, fear generates one of two reactions. You will do one of two things when you're afraid. You will fight or you will flee.
Well, that's true because I believe in fighting. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so just because you are afraid does not mean you run. Now,
That
if
you're done?
you have a
C-O-N-E?
that run, R-U-N, just because you're afraid.
Something keeps interfering here. That's why I'm not catching all your
Okay,
words.
well, I'll be glad to repeat it for you. Just because you're afraid does not mean that you're gonna run. You have
Well, that's true.
you have to practice a philosophy that says, when I am confronted and I am afraid, I run. But you make up your mind before you're ever confronted that my reaction will be to run. Because courage is not the absence of fear. That's a big misnomer. People think that courage is having no fear. That's not true. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is doing the right thing while your knees are knocking, as a man once said. Courage is
Well, I
facing
agree
your
with
fear.
that.
So a person who runs when their children are being brutalized and killed, denied opportunities, victimized by the so-called educational system, shot down by white supremacist vigilantes, killed by police departments, gunned down by militaries, marginalized, disenfranchised, lynched, brutalized, demeaned, demoralized in the media, that's a coward when he says, because here's the thing, you might have been afraid the first time you saw it. But what was your excuse 3 days later for not taking action about what happened 3 days ago? Now that you can't say is fear at that point. That's not fear anymore. But you're still doing the same thing. You're running. So it's not fear. It's cowardice.
I'm listening to you, but somehow or another, I don't agree with all of that.
Of course
Because
not.
I see too many.
Of course
I
not.
see too many blacks today that are literally afraid of to fight back at the system.
Okay, but
They actually come out and tell you they just fear it
Oh.
because they've seen. But may I finish? You said you let me speak, and I did sit back and give you the courtesy. And you also made the remark that you were the host. It wasn't that I was trying to disrespect you, but that came out on an ego level, and I didn't like that part because I wouldn't have said that to you. I would have just said, okay, I'll speak.
well, that's not my ego. That's
So
just
you don't
a
have to tell me you're the host. I already
that's
know
just
you're
a
the host.
yeah. That's not ego. That's just a categorical fact. I'm the host.
Well, it sounded egotistical.
Well, you have a
It
bad
really
definition
did.
of
Maybe you
egotistical.
didn't mean it that way, but that's the way it came out.
I'm sure you take all
Now,
kinds of things
what-
in an offensive manner. I'm sure you do, but go ahead.
Well, I have a right to feel the way I want to feel, right?
Okay, you have the right to be wrong, yes. You do have a right to be
Well,
wrong.
If you think I'm wrong, but I think you're wrong with the
Okay.
egotistical thing. But
Well-
you said no. But I disagree. But what I want to say to you is that as an activist, I see a lot of people that fear every day, literally afraid. Afraid. Believe it or not, somebody came to me just recently and asked me if I would go with them to a certain spot where they had taken her child. He was a teenager, or he is a teenager, and locked him up. And this kid has never given anybody any problems in the community. She was so afraid to go to the police station and ask for her child. And I went with her because she knows I do activist work. And when she saw how simple it was for me to go and speak to the sergeant or whoever that man was at the desk and tell him who I was looking for, then she says to me when we leave, wow, I didn't know it would be so easy. Now, you're not going to tell me that wasn't fear in that lady.
Okay,
That
but
was fear.
she was afraid before she went there. So that's a decision. That's not a reaction.
Because she's never had to deal with the police before.
Okay, but that's
She's heard
not
about all these killings and carrying on, and she's scared to death.
yes, but as I said
So I
before,
went
that's not
with
a
her.
but it
Especially
wasn't a
the
reaction.
elderly lady.
Okay, but
Excuse me?
My point is that was not a reaction. She was afraid before she ever went there. That's cowardice.
Well, this is what I'm saying to you. I see a lot of black people like that.
Okay, but that's cowardice. But that's cowardice.
You can't call them all cowards.
Yes, you can.
Because they show fear in every sense of the word.
No, when you're walking around every day afraid, that's a decision.
No, I don't see people like that.
Well, you just described her.
Walk around every day. It's when people have problems that they're afraid to go to the system and let them know that they have some rights. There are people like that, and I mean, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people just in my area alone.
Yeah, you have a lot of cowards.
By the way, I'm in New Jersey, right next door to New York, so I'm in the middle of a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you got a lot of cowards.
Trayvon Martin was killed. I was in Florida.
Yeah, you got a lot of cowards in Jersey.
Excuse me?
You have a lot of cowards in Jersey. You're correct.
Well, there are cowards all over. I'm just letting you know where I be a lot because I am an activist and try to help people. But I know there's a lot of black people that fear the system. Yeah. They fear it.
We try
There's no such thing as a react. They just fear it.
Okay, but
I mean,
that's a decision.
2 or 3 generations.
But okay, but do you understand that you have just described what I told you was cowardice because you said they were afraid of the system? Ma'am,
I agree with you to a point.
Yeah, okay.
But I still say there's a lot more that fear than there are cowards.
No, ma'am.
When I say fear, I'm talking about a lot of females. Many females fear this system. Many males may be cowards, may show cowardice, but many females are literally afraid.
Okay, so why are you making a distinction?
I know that's been raped by more than one man in one night, and they're afraid to report it because they're the ones who become not just the victim. They no longer become the victim. They become the person almost like the perpetrator.
Well, now you're making now you're disparaging of males.
Going to the law about it.
Now you're disparaging of males. How is it that the men can be more cowardly than the females?
Oh, because of their action, the way they act.
Okay.
No black men care a lot of cowardness about them.
So you think
but
that
there's a lot of them that do because they won't even protect their own selves and their families. It's because of the fact they themselves got screwed up 2 or 3 generations back.
Okay. Would you say that a woman? Would you say that a woman is a coward if she's having a bunch of bastard children so she can get welfare so she doesn't have to get a job? Would you say that that's cowardice too?
No, because I don't think that's true.
No, I'm asking you, would you say that a woman who is having a bunch of bastard kids to avoid getting a job so she can get welfare?
I don't see them as bastard kids. I see them as mistakes that were not planned, but I don't see them as bastard children.
Do you know the definition of the word bastard?
The law says that you are married legally by this jurisdiction, but that doesn't mean that you got they have a piece of paper that they give you saying you're married, that you ain't going to have a bastard child. Because children that are born to those who have those legal papers are treated like worse than so-called bastard children.
Okay, but you're playing semantics. You're playing games.
Bastard, you got to call some that got the legal paper bastard.
Okay,
I see a lot of them being mistreated.
Okay, a bastard is not
There's
a child.
There's a lot of women that have children and not have the piece of paper because it's written by a man anyway. It doesn't state nowhere in the Bible or any other biblical document that you got to have a piece of paper saying that you don't have a bastard child if you ain't got a male there.
But ma'am, bastard is not a legal term.
You use words negative, and then you try to push it positive. I listened to you the whole time.
Ma'am, bastard is not a biblical.
First of all, what is your nationality?
Ma'am, bastard.
You sound like a mixed breed.
Ma'am, bastard.
You don't sound like a true origin of black people.
Ma'am,
you sound like a mixed breed. You have a nice day, because you done pissed me off already, dude.
What? Do you have bastard kids? Why would you be upset unless you have some bastard babies? Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we just heard from the civil rights generation. 70 years old. If you want to know why the civil rights generation got absolutely nothing done, you just heard it in that phone call. If you want to know why guys like me and Tariq Nasheed are having to spend whole parts of our economic standing to make films, to make movies, to have weekly broadcasts, to try to deprogram our people. If you want to know why we got to do that, that was the previous generation on the phone right there. That was the civil rights generation, the baby boomer generation on the phone right there. If you want to know who emboldened Darren Wilson, that was it right there. If you want to know who emboldened Daniel Pantaleo, that was it right there. If you want to know who made George Zimmerman walk with his chest poked out and a slide in his glide and a dip in his hip, if you want to know what made him walk with a strut, you just heard it right there. Let me see. Okay, Brother Jason, why do you keep putting yourself in the caller queue, man?
What's going on, brother?
Black first, Jason, what's on your mind, brother? You've heard first the wisdom, then you heard the insanity.
The whole theme of this broadcast tonight is basically leading exactly into what I wanted to talk to you about with Claude Anderson coming to Fort Lauderdale. And Umar was just here a couple of days ago. Now, this was a black empowerment event, and I wanted to let everybody know that they were having problems with sponsors, people to sponsor this event. And the reason why is the sponsors that they were looking for were from the black businesses that were around here. Now, you already explained what the word cowardice, what being a coward is, and let's just say that to see Claude Anderson speak and to see Umar Johnson speak, we all had to pay, okay? Because they couldn't get sponsorship because the black businesses called Claude Anderson radical. Now that sounds like more like being a coward, but they were afraid to sponsor him because they felt that the teachings and the conversation that Claude Anderson was going to have on Monday, which is black economic empowerment, was too radical to talk about. Now, if that isn't the definition of being a coward, that has nothing to do with fear. That's being a coward. Okay.
Let me tell you something. If that actually happened, I'll let you finish here in a moment. If you can actually get me documentation, I want to know the businesses. I want documentation. I want those businesses. If they will say it on the record, I want to know who that was who said that. Because let me tell you, I don't care if it's a black chicken shack. I will pay for you to go to Popeyes or Burger King or Wendy's. I would rather see you go shop with the white merchants than with some cooned out Negroes who are doing the work of white supremacy. I would rather see you do that. So if there's proof that somebody actually did that, I want to know, because they need to be. You want to do a boycott? Let's start with them.
I agree with you. The sister that told us that was before she brought Umar Johnson out there, she brought it up, and believe me, I was in the crowd and I said loud enough for her to say, for her to hear me, who were they? Oh, I'm not going to say who they were. No, sister, who were they? Who were they? She didn't want to reveal the names of those businesses. I do have her number. I'll probably call her privately to find out. But it is an issue, and your calls from Detroit and that the minute she said she marched with Martin Luther King, I already knew where it was going. And I think everybody in the chat room and everybody that was listening knew where that was going, because it was always, you always get with the civil rights generation, they love to tell you who they marched with, okay? But then the minute you turn around and you say, all right, well, okay, then what have you guys done in 50 years? Why is it that our unemployment in the black community is still double the national average? Why is that still going on? Why is there Arabs that own corner stores in our neighborhoods? Why is it that we don't own anything? Why is it our schools are the way that they are? What did you guys actually do? And, you've had this conversation. It's like, when you called Negus' show in Detroit, it was the same thing that you were hearing. When you had the question and answer session in London, you heard the same thing. This is a problem with our people, and it's not fear, it's a conscious decision, as you said. It's folks being absolute cowards. You have to wake up in the morning and make a conscious decision to say that I'm not going to go up against the system. Out of fear of what? What are you afraid of? Afraid to die, that you might have to pay the ultimate price? For me, being, as you already know, retired from the military, I've had to get up and go to work every day, and I've made deployments every day. There's that fight or flight, of course, but it didn't stop me from working.
Yeah, but you know what the thing is, though? You went to work for their military, and they told you that as a requisite of coming in and working for them, you got to be ready to die for them. You have to be ready to die for what they are saying. That's a requisite before you can even walk in here. So everybody else understands that you have to be ready to put it all on the line if you're going to get anything done. We are the people who are sitting up here trying to figure out, well, is there a cowardly subsistence position that I can occupy and maybe get by sniveling and crawling on my belly below the radar? Is there some way I can do that? And look at the results we got to show for it.
We have nothing to show for it, and we continuously go down the same path. We meet those that are about empowering each other, empowering our community, like you, like Tariq. We have met with the most resistance. People have constantly, white supremacy has constantly shown us over and over and over and over and over that they will back whoever they feel with their dollars, regardless, okay, of if the person is innocent or guilty. As Tariq said, they got money for the Oklahoma cop that raped those black women. We've heard about the money that they raised for Dan Wilson so that he could just leave the police department. I'm pretty sure folks put money aside for Daniel Pentalio, George Zimmerman. The list goes on and on and on. I'll give you an example. I put up a post in the TMI group about the black man there in Detroit that owes $30,000 in back child support for a child that doesn't belong to him. Where are the black people in the community, instead of sitting there shaking their heads saying, man, that's messed up, why don't they sit there and start a Kickstarter and raise that $30,000 for that man? If they believe that everything is so wrong, that he was done, that white supremacy did him so dirty, why don't they raise the money for him? Why isn't it
because they know
there should be...
The reason why is because they know that won't do anything. Because you need to hold a Kickstarter, all right? You need to have crowdfunding, but you need to have crowdfunding to go after the judge. You see, in white society, if a black politician did do something that they don't like, you know what happens to him? Kwame Kilpatrick, Ray Nagin, Marion Barry. You see, that's what happens when you're a black politician and white folk, you do something that they don't like. Once they have an opportunity, that's what happens to you. Black people have not shown the ability, and worse than just not showing the ability, we have not even shown the will to want to punish our enemies. Why should they not kill, slaughter, and destroy us? Why shouldn't they? We haven't even shown them that we have the will to do it.
The thing that you talked about as far as what YouTube is doing, I mean, do people understand that they are slowly but surely choking off people that, basically freedom of speech in a way, or they can control what is put out there in the airwaves or what's put out there to the masses. Because, as you said, first they'll start with the music. Then there will be, like, individual YouTube channels where they'll probably say, well, if you're not signed with this TV company or this movie studio, you can't put this, that, or the other out. And then, as you said, there's nothing, the alternatives haven't gotten their heads out the sand to figure out how to snatch this probably wide market that's open or available, that's going to be available, to somehow capitalize off of it. So I'm just curious to know, do people see the writing is on the wall? Like, how many more examples of having power up and influence do we need to see before we figure out, man, maybe we need to start practicing group economics. Maybe we do need to start building. Because right now, YouTube's saying that they're going to do this, and there's folks out there in the black community that are using YouTube to communicate to the folks in the community, but we don't have our own thing. So YouTube could basically tomorrow flip the switch and say, all right, we're cutting you guys off. What do we do then? What are you going to use, smoke signals?
Well, maybe that would be what we need, brother, because segregation is when they cut us off. Segregation was when they did it, and that's what it took for us to build our own theaters, our own skating rinks, our own newspapers. the Pittsburgh Courier and whatnot, and the first thing they wanted to do was integrate themselves back into the people who were trying to get away from them. So maybe that's what we need. Maybe we need a new segregation. Maybe we need a new Jim Crow so that we just simply don't have the option of Coon and buffooning anymore. We're about to run out of time here, so it's about to cut you off, but I'll let you go ahead and have the last word here.
Once again, if you are in Fort Lauderdale, Monday, 4 o'clock, at the African American Research Library, I would say if you're listening to this broadcast in Fort Lauderdale, it's not an option; it's required. You got to come see the Godfather, Dr. Claude Anderson, and chop up game with him. And Black first, brother.
Black first. Thank you very much for joining us here tonight, brother. We've learned a lot here tonight, brothers and sisters. It's a dangerous, perilous situation, and it's not that you're going to get away from it. You're not going to be able to put your head in the sand, no matter how badly you may want to. Definitely, if you have not been to Kickstarter, you definitely want to go there. Hidden Colors 4. Definitely you want to do that. Everybody else, I will be taking a look at what you got on here, so we can go ahead and go with that. Thank you very much for Tariq Nasheed checking in with us here. We got the home fires burning, and I want all of you, even if it's only $5, you want to be there and represent that. If the dominant society can sit up here and make angry birds and exploding kittens, we can at least make some hidden colors. At least. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the BlackChannel.net radio program. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant as always. We will be checking in back with you here later. And remember that black is the future. The future is uncompromising. And they're coming for you, ready or not.